Very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. And some of you wondering, what am I doing on the radio on a Tuesday night? Yeah, it's me, all right. My name is Rodney. And I'm here on the second day of November. A day I think is very special for us in Dominica. Very special for me as well. 43 years ago, around that time, I think I was in the Windsor Park. And it was cold. We had driven up on a Bedford truck that night. And we were there to view the hoisting of the Dominican flag, the bringing down of the Union Jack. And voila, Dominica was independent. That's why I don't mind being here this evening at the invitation of the indomitable Sheridan Gregoire. So welcome aboard tonight to all of you on the Global View on Q. In just a moment, you'll hear from the host of this wonderful program himself. So sit back and get involved in this. It's going to be a very educational journey tonight. Quite a panel this evening. So I ask you to get your pens and paper out. Maybe get your recording devices as well, because you want to replay that, all right? Whatever you do tonight, be educated, be informed. So let me welcome aboard and welcome to introduce this program tonight, Mr. G himself. A very good evening to you, Mr. G.
And very good evening to you, Pastor Rodney, and to you in Radio Land at home and abroad on Facebook at Wise QFM or at Q95 FM Radio. Please share the live and invite your friends to join the Q family so you can get the latest breaking local, regional, and international news and happenings. We acknowledge you on the several other online streaming platforms. This is the Global View on Q, and it's Tuesday, the 2nd of November. It's just a little after 7 p.m. in the studios at Q95, the big station. It is, in fact, the 42nd Tuesday of 2021. I'm your host, Sheridan Gregoire, Mr. G, and I invite you to stay tuned and be part of our special conversation, reflections, and salutations on the occasion of the observance of Dominica's 43rd anniversary of independence. With many distinguished guests here tonight, distinguished Dominican patriots in Dominica, in the region, and worldwide. So what is the essence of the observance of our independence? What are we reflecting on? What are we saluting or celebrating, if we are celebrating? All sectors are embraced tonight, embracing our nature island Dominica on its 43rd anniversary of independence, and looking forward to the next 7 years when we will reach the 50th anniversary of independence of our fledgling small island state developing democracy. It is, in fact, a fledgling democracy. Our governance, our desire for factual, fair, and balanced political education and maturity, our efforts or lack thereof to stop the increasingly escalating brutal crimes that we see happening around us, reflecting on our need to achieve a reasonable standard of living and quality of life for every Dominican. Indeed, concern over the resilience and sustainability of our environment, our engagement with our diaspora brothers and sisters, Because we're reviewing the 43 years of political independence. We'll do that tonight, the past, the present, and the future of Dominica. So here's a question. Is Dominica on the right path to reach social and economic independence by 2028, when we will be 50? We are right here tonight on the Global View on Q, special Q95 NJAM collaboration, an NJAM non-national joint action movement for independence review, reflection, and salutation messages from Dominicans at home and abroad. And we have quite a few of those messages tonight. We'll hear from a wide array of Dominican patriots worldwide. So wherever you are in Dominica, in the region, and globally, please join this conversation. Have your say as you do every Tuesday with me, Mr. G, only on Q95, the big station. We're joined on panel and via voice note presentations by a number of very distinguished Dominicans at home and abroad. Former Prime Minister Oliver J. Seraphin in the USVI, he's with us. Former Prime Minister Edison James in Barbados. Justice Dr. Irving Andre of Canada. Dr. Dion George in Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Alvin Thomas in Atlanta. You may not see all of them, but you will certainly hear the voices. Pastor Rodney is with us. And we're getting some background noises, but I hope that the persons who are in the background will mute their mics so that we don't hear all of the background noises before they're ready to speak. So please, if you're not speaking, please mute your mic so we don't hear your conversations in the background. So as I was saying, also, we expect to have Sergeant Major Ralph Halson-Lowe, he's in Atlanta. Dr. Simone Mathieu in Atlanta, she's with us. Dr. Swinburne Augustine in Ohio. Miss Alex Warrington, who's in Switzerland. Miss Amma Harris in Toronto, Canada. Miss Janice Williams Russell in Canada. Dr. Emmanuel Finn in Washington, D.C. Just trying to run through some of the names so everybody know a wide array of patriots are with us here tonight. Miss Marceline Edwards also is there from Jersey. Leonard Matthew in Houston, Texas. Dr. Dale Dangleman in Pennsylvania. Jeff Bellot in Illinois. Former Ambassador Crispin Gregoire in New York. Mr. Arundel Thomas in Dominica. Zari Manuel in Dominica. Captain Frankie Tong in the USVI. Captain Ronnie Hodge. Dr. Thompson Fontaine in South Sudan. Attorney Mrs. Singola Blomquist Williams in Dominica. Proud and fearless Kalinago patriot, Mrs. Annette Sanford in Dominica, she's with us. Mr. Anthony LeBlanc in Dominica, Mr. Severin McKenzie, John Robin, Simeon Joseph, Debbie Douglas in Ottawa, Canada. And I expect we will take calls from many Dominican patriots from every corner of Dominica, the region, and globally. So as we move along tonight, we look in the rearview mirror from colonial times through statehood and onto our period of independence. We will not go into too much depth tonight into the life and times and legacies of our past regimes and leaders in government, but we intend to do so along with our authors and historians very soon in what is likely to be a three-part series on the Global View on Q. Look out for that and the promotions of that series in the next few days. But we will, however, be looking at where we were at the end of the colonial rule, how far we have come, have we progressed satisfactorily after we attained independent status? What is our situation today? Do we see any impediments or obstacles in the way of our progress, or that cause the lack of it? How should we proceed into the future as we face the next 7 years into our 50th anniversary in 2028? So what is the state of our democracy, our economy, our society, and our justice system right now? Will we see modern electoral reforms and campaign finance reforms and free and fair elections? When will that happen? So what about the imperative for greater political education among our youth and adults, and for eliminating big private special interest money of unknown origin from our election campaigns? So we all look at these issues like bribery, all the things that we talked about over the years until today, treating CO dependency on handouts and on gifts and things versus knowledge and experience and competence and accountability, transparency. What about the fear of intimidation, of victimization, of oppression and repression, and political culture and narcissistic type leadership? What about the human rights and environmental protections and heritage preservations? We will discuss the good, the bad, the ugly, and the dangerous, the legacy of populist leadership in the Caribbean, the erosion of human rights under populist leaders, and what kind of leadership qualities do we need today in Dominica to take us into our 50th birthday in 2028. So we will examine the way forward by looking into the rearview mirror at the lessons learned from the era of various leaders in Dominica and what can Dominicans and friends of Dominica at home and abroad do to help improve our fortunes. So tonight, we discuss, we make recommendations for the way forward. No anger, no malice, no personal attacks, no vilification, just no divisiveness, just bringing back civility, peace, and love, and a caring society, good governance for our Kalinago and Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters. So wherever you are in Dominica, in the region, and globally, please join us right now on the Global View and Q. And as usual, we say a heartfelt thank you to our healthcare providers and frontline workers. We know they're exhausted, but I expect they will keep working to help stem this rising tide, this escalating and expanding deadly coronavirus situation in Dominica in order to keep us safe, you and I, to keep us safe. So please follow the correct advice, guidelines, and protocols. Play it safe and stay alive. Happy you can be with us here tonight. Let's get started because I want to go first to Mr. Severin McKenzie and then to Mr. Daryl Bob, if he's with us, and to tell us why they wish to associate themselves and their organizations with this initiative, the first of its kind by the private sector, and to identify the leaders of the private sector organizations that are with us tonight and who will each make, if they're here, a 5-minute presentation on their reflections over the years and to give their own salutation to Dominica's 43rd anniversary of independence. For my part, I wish Dominica and every Dominican at home and abroad a meaningful, thoughtful, reflective, and enjoyable observation of our 43rd anniversary of independence tomorrow. So let's go over to you, Pastor Rodney, on the console, and then to Severin McKenzie, who will please introduce Mr. Daryl Bob is with us as the next presenter after him. Pastor Rodney, I yield back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. G. And again, a very pleasant good evening to all of you. Like I said to you before, we have a very serious panel tonight. So you have a lot to hear and to listen to and to learn from. Let me go straight across to Severin McKenzie and his thoughts, his contribution, and I'm sure he will introduce Mr. Daryl Bob as well. Severin, over to you.
Okay, let me say good evening to everybody present on the panel this evening. Let me apologize, maybe because I have not seen Daryl, neither John Robin on. So I know Daryl said that he would be having something clashing with the Calypso Association, and he was supposed to send in a voice note, but I have not seen it. So just in case we do not get it, then we'll just have to move on. Okay. All right. My perspective is, let's see how it goes. For those of us who were involved in the Popular Independence Committee, the PIC, headed by Rosie Douglas, we'll never forget, which was on the forefront which played a vanguard role of this organization for the attainment of political independence of November 3rd, 1978. Most of us were merely teenagers when we engaged in work and study groups, familiarizing ourselves with the African liberation movement of the struggling people of Angola, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and the achievements of the Cuban Revolution. The leftists, as we were called, had no difficulties giving unconditional support to the Dominica Labour Party government led by then Premier Patrick Rowland John. In fact, when the Dominica Freedom Party attempted to launch a campaign seeking a referendum to determine whether we should have independence, it was the militant youth who launched a counter campaign dubbed Independence Yes, Referendum No. The Freedom Party quickly conceded defeat and had no alternative but to support the independence movement. On November 2nd, 1978, will remain etched in my memory as one of the most gratifying moments in the history of Dominica. And maybe that was the last time that we really witnessed a united Dominica, a sense of unadulterated unity and national pride. When the Union Jack, the symbol of British and European colonialism and foreign domination, was lowered at midnight, and the Dominica flag, designed by Alwyn Bully, was raised to bring a new dawn of self-determination, the entire country roared and applauded in jubilation. If we had cable television at that time, I could not imagine what would have happened. For the progressive elements, our dream and aspiration was to move to economic independence. 6 months after obtaining political independence, the Commonwealth of Dominica experienced the events of May 29, followed by the devastation of Hurricane David on August 29, 1979. It was as a result of these two historical events that Rosie Douglas and Bernard Wiltshire were given the responsibility to represent Dominica at the 6th summit of the non-aligned movement in Havana, Cuba, under the leadership of one of our panelists here tonight, former Prime Minister O.J. Seraphin. While many of the countries of the non-aligned movement made monetary pledges of support to Dominica as a gesture for the rehabilitation efforts on the island, the late Fidel Castro, President of the Republic of Cuba, offered Dominica university scholarships to develop the human resource base. Fidel's pronouncement at that time was very simple. Cuba will assist in the training of young Dominicans in order that they return home to build their homeland. With this simple gesture of solidarity, the Cuban scholarship program was born, and I dare say the rest is history. So, as we celebrate 43 years of political independence, at the end of this month, November 30th, to be exact, we will also be celebrating 42 years of the Cuban scholarship program. And it is quite fitting to take the opportunity to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the people and government of Cuba for the invaluable contribution they have made in the development of the human resource base in the Commonwealth of Dominica. There is no doubt that the Cuban scholarship program is one of the most sustainable and recognizable achievements of the Commonwealth of Dominica since independence on 3rd November 1978. Prior to the arrival of the first group of Cuban trained graduates in 1985, 6 years after the commencement of the program, the number of qualified professionals across the various disciplines could be counted on one hand, and in some cases, these disciplines were non-existent. So without elaborating on the specifics and numbers, we are all aware, at least those of us who were around in the pre-independence era, because it appears that the subsequent generations of millennials, Generation X, and the others do not seem to know what life was, and life was not always what it is today. The number of medical doctors, dentists, engineers, architects, accountants, and the list goes on, trained in Cuba, has impacted miraculously on the socio-economic development of Dominica. Sadly, 43 years of independence marks the beginning of the twilight years of many of this vibrant generation of the 70s, who were instrumental in seeing Dominica obtain independence at this historic moment. Just like the other OECS countries who followed Dominica on the journey of independence, Dominica would have become an independent nation at some time because colonial Britain was growing fed up of the colonies and the dependencies since we had already obtained the status of associated states. But looking back at 43 years of independence, what have we achieved? This is a question I'll leave to the rest of the panel as we go on through this evening. But for me, personally, it is the Cuban scholarship program which changed the lives of hundreds of young Dominicans and the professional landscape in Dominica. I'll leave it at this for now, Mr. G.
Pastor Rodney, it's we're not hearing you if you're talking.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Sevs, and we appreciate that comment, and we have not seen Mr. Bob yet, so we will take a few of those voice notes, Mr. G.
Right.
We'll go straight into them and hear from some of these people as to their views on our independence review as we pause a while. So let's take Miss Emma Harris, Mrs. Singola Blomquist Williams, and Justice Dr. Irvin Andre in that order. Please give a listen to these comments.
Après body c'est la terre. After God is the earth. And the earth we in Dominica give so much thanks for is the power, the paradise God blessed us with. Dominica, that is so sweet. And now today, let us give thanks to God for our silent heroes. Yes? Merci mon Dieu. Thank you, God, for our silent heroes. The old man at the top of the hill, whose name we didn't even know. He stopped the boy and girl from teasing us in the street. For him we say, Merci bon Dieu. The old lady in the yard that watched over us as we bathed. For her we say, Merci bon Dieu. The mother that woke up early in the morning before that cock could crow. Yes, to go to work sick or no sick, so that her children could eat. Merci bon Dieu. What about the father who went without holidays? That's right, no vacation at all, so that his children could have decent clothes to wear to school. Merci bon Dieu. The auntie who went without so that her nieces and nephews could buy books to go to school. Merci bon Dieu. And what about the teacher who stopped the bullies from stealing our recess at school? Merci bon Dieu. And the pumpkin vine relatives who mourned with us when Grandpa and Grandma went to meet the Lord. Merci, bon Dieu. I tell you, merci, bon Dieu, for so many more silent heroes who are flashing across our mind's eye right now. Merci, bon Dieu. And right there at home, let us pick up the phone and phone a silent hero and say, Merci, bon Dieu. Merci, bon Dieu, for you and you sitting right there listening. You, the silent heroes of Dominica. We give glory to God for you. We say, oh yes, merci, bon Dieu.
Good day, Dominicans. Congratulations, Dominica, on attaining the 43 years of independence. I was a teenager when we attained independence in 1978. It was indeed a very joyous occasion. We all had very high hopes because we knew that we could be the leaders of our beloved country, and we were no longer a colony, and that made us very, very proud. We have been through so many highs and lows since 1978. In 1979, we saw Hurricane David, which was very devastating on us. It changed so many lives, including mine. Many of us had to migrate from Dominica, and many of us did not return, but Dominica is in our hearts. Our beautiful island blossomed in the 1990s when we saw the standard of living of ordinary Dominicans elevated, and there was an increase in the number of university graduates per household. Sadly, this success was short-lived, and now we are seeing more heinous crimes being committed. Our society is changing. We have more individualism, and this could-me mentality is being eroded, and sometimes we might not even be able to get it back. Our economy is very anemic. People are struggling to pay their bills, and the youth, they have given up hope. Yet, in all this distress, there is hope, because Dominica is a blessed country with such natural beauty and pristine forests. We are resilient and patriotic, and it is our duty to pull our country out of this abyss, and with God's help, we will succeed. Happy anniversary, Dominica. Thank you.
Greetings, members of the Q95 fraternity, Dominican citizens, both at home and abroad, listeners of all stripes. This is, in one sense, a wonderful occasion in the celebration of a 43rd anniversary of independence. It is one where we hopefully can take stock as to the progress that we've made as an independent nation. And certainly we can be very proud of a number of things. We can be very proud of the wonderful successes by numerous Dominicans, both at home and abroad, whether in sports, academia, their respective professions. Many of our citizens have achieved significant things over the last 43 years. And so certainly their achievement reflected very well on this speck of land in the Caribbean Sea, which is often mistaken for the Dominican Republic. We can be very proud of that success, because the success of every Dominican is the success of our nation. However, we would be somewhat less than fair in failing to recognize that to a significant degree we are at the crossroads in terms of our future as a democratic nation. We have to confront those challenges head on. We cannot sweep them under the carpet. We have to confront them head on, because we have an obligation to make sure that we take our rightful place as an independent nation, proud of our democratic traditions, proud of our history, proud of being descendants of slaves who fought ferociously for our freedom, proud of the fact that that flame still flickers brightly, although it is continuously threatened by the unkindest cut of all, by some of our own. We have to lament the fact that at no other time in our history has our democracy been under siege. We have to lament the fact that at no other time in our history have we been more concerned about free and fair elections in Dominica. We have to be concerned that at no other time in our history have we been more concerned about the integrity of our institutions, the integrity of our consolidated fund. At no other time have we been so concerned about the manner in which we treat our fellow Dominicans, simply because
some of them have chosen to support a party of their own choice. In other words, precisely because some of them have chosen to exercise their constitutional rights to freedom of choice and freedom of association enshrined in the Dominican Constitution. So at this juncture of our history, while we are proud to celebrate the past, we have to reinvigorate ourselves. We have to tell ourselves once again that the battle has not been ended, that the fight to secure our future continues, and that we have a role to play in that glorious fight. Because quite frankly, if we're not prepared to fight for the future of our island nation, it raises the question, what then are we prepared to fight for? This is not a partisan question. It is a question which reflects the very future of this island, which we call home. And so, while I extend my heartiest congratulations and greetings to my fellow Dominicans, I ask you to reflect in a very sober and thoughtful way on what we have experienced over the last 2 decades and what we would like to experience over the coming 2 decades. So I leave you with those thoughts. The future is ours to define. It is ours to mold. Thank you.
We heard from Miss Emma Harris, Mrs. Singola Blomkis Williams, and just ended Justice Irvin Andre. Mr. G, I'm proposing that we listen to the rest, if you don't mind, before we engage that discussion again. Is that fine with you, sir?
That's fine with me, but I also wanted to acknowledge, a big way the presence of the people who are here with us tonight, already on panel with us. I mean, we can see this is Annette Sanford is here with us. Dr. Simone Mathieu is here. Former Prime Minister Oliver Seraphin is here with us. Dr. Dion George is with us. Severin is with us. Severin McKenzie. Debbie Douglas is also on. We're not seeing her, but and Dr. Thompson Fountain is on. As the night goes on, we expect many more people to be joining us on the panel here tonight. But we also want to just very quickly acknowledge, and I know that as we go along, Dr. Simone Mathieu will help me to do that because she does it very well, to acknowledge all the people who are with us on Facebook. I know the numbers are going to keep growing, so we'll acknowledge them. But Pastor Rodney, I want to go back over to you so you can continue the voice, because we have quite a few of them to come. And I believe we have a very powerful one from our former Prime Minister Oliver Seraphin. I look forward to hearing it.
Actually, this one comes up right now. We will hear from former Prime Minister Oliver James Seraphin. We'll hear from Dr. Emmanuel Finn, Attorney Gabriel Christian, and of course, Dr. Simone Mathieu. So let's pay attention to them in that order. Former Prime Minister Oliver James Seraphin, Dr. Emmanuel Finn, Mr. Gabriel Christian, and Dr. Simone Mathieu. Let's listen in.
I wish to thank you for your kind invitation to participate in the recognition of the 43rd anniversary of our independence. It is an auspicious occasion. And as the former president of the Labour Party, which led Dominica to independence, I wish to recall with respect as given to the founding fathers by America, and to allow those respect to permeate with those who served and were present when we finally got our own flag hoisted as an independent nation. We as a nation have a tendency to employ political amnesia and only give reference and recognition, or to give honor to whom it is due, only to those who have died. So I take this opportunity to recognize the founding fathers of the nation, led by PM Patrick John. I recall vividly our comrades who, together with the Premier Patrick John, first went to inform the British government of our determination to seek our independence, which they acceded to. Minister of Finance Victor Rivera, Attorney General Lee Austin and I, on our return from that particular significant and very important visit, to announce to the Queen's Parliament and to the government of the UK that Dominica was seeking its independence, we did receive a harsh treatment on our return. But as the last man still on deck, as I would say, I'm the last member of the cabinet still alive. I'm the last member of the executive of the Labour Party, the cradle of our independence. I believe it is my responsibility to give a salute to those who have gone to the great beyond and whose voice is eternally sealed. Ministers Henkel Christian, Osborne Theodore, Randolph Barnes, Luke Corrett, Victor Revere, Leo Austin, and Eustace Francis, the Parliamentary Secretary, Michael Douglas and Edward LeBlanc, who too were part of the delegation which went to the UK to sign off the proclamation and conclusion for the discussions on our Constitution. May their souls all rest in peace. It would be remiss of me, however, not to give due respect and understanding of the role that was played by the PIC, which included two later prime ministers, Roosevelt Douglas, as well as Pierre Charles, among whom were those who participated in this very rigorous effort to inform the nation as to the need for independence. That included Bernard Wilshire, who became a minister of government, Afi Martin, who became a minister of government, and Dr. Parra Revere, who became a secretary of the party. We must say, however, that we have come a long way. The process of development of Dominica was particularly focused on making the little man walk tall. It was focused on the concept that all shall eat. It was focused on the capacity of the little man from the countryside, the so-called contributie of the day, or the Negmar Bodlame of the Roseau environs, to emerge and become part of the middle class and to be structured in society as an equal to anyone else. And so it was a focal point of the Labour Party's policy and philosophy and ideology to ensure that persons who were deprived of opportunity were so like anyone else on the state to enjoy to send their children to school, etc. And so it was done through the Dominica coconut products, where the peasantry, the farmers, etc., were able to sell their copra and participate. It is so it was with the essential oils, with bay oil cooperatives, with cooperatives being formed far and wide, with the village councils and local government having a part to play in the process of development, that the structure of leadership came from the grassroots, and that's where we evolved as a nation. Indeed, we had places like the 4-H Club, the Young Freedom Movement actually grew out of that period, the Labor Youth Organization, of which I was a coordinator and founder in 1977. We saw a lot of land reform taking place. Lands became available to the less fortunate. We saw the Candles Co-op form. We saw Benja Shoe coming forward. We also saw Blows Agro Products forming itself into a very respectable organization. We saw this and more. But at the end of the day, what was achieved was the restructuring of our society. I call it the social revolution. And it is now rest upon us to reestablish the importance and relevance of each and every citizen to participate in the well-being of our country. We need to re-examine our constitution. We need to re-examine the various areas of important structures of government. We need to look at the Boundaries Commission. We need to look at the effect of the checks and balances of government. And we need to grow, we need to develop, we need to evolve. And this is the time that we should look at it, especially we are only 7 years away from 50 years. And we're trusting that those of us who have the capacity to contribute will do so in a meaningful way, outside of the rancor and confusion of political dynamics and polemics. But we shall move forward, understanding that we as a nation can only grow if the people themselves allow themselves to evolve into transparent persons seeking for development and growth outside of the political polarization. This is the moment for change, is a moment for growth. And we trust that this new moment of the 43rd anniversary will afford Dominicans the privilege, the right, and the authority to take their destiny in their hands.
Good day. Happy Independence to all and to our nature island of Dominica, especially the folks in the southeast. I'm Emmanuel Finn, wishing you the best from Washington, D.C. I have nostalgic, patriotic, and emotional memories of the early morning hours of November 2nd and November 3rd, 1978, when I marched in two parades to celebrate Dominica's political independence. The first was the military parade with the Dominica Cadet Corps and the witnessing of the lowering of the Union Jack for the very last time and the raising of the Dominican flag. That was a proud moment. The second was in the multicolored uniform parade of the high school as a Dominican Grammar School student. That was fun as well. This 48-hour span on the 2nd and the 3rd of November 1978 was filled with optimism, hopes, dreams, and aspirations of a bright future for our newly minted nation. But less than a year later, Dominica was hit by a terrible hurricane, Hurricane David, and a political crisis, which culminated in May 1979. Both these natural and man-made disasters nearly destroyed our newly politically independent island home. But together as a people, we soldiered on and weathered both storms. But today, on our 43rd independent anniversary, a veil of darkness and despair hovers over our land. But some hard questions need to be asked here, such as, who and what is a citizen of Dominica? What about the Citizen by Investment Program? Who and what legally constitutes as a Dominican citizen today? Is it okay for Dominican citizens who cannot pronounce the name of a village or one of our 665 rivers still a citizen? And can he or she vote in our general or local elections? Does the national anthem mean much today? Land of thy birth, I pledge to thee. These are troubling questions that we will have to answer sooner or later. What about the many recommendations by the international organizations on election reform? And what about the tireless work of the Electoral Commission? Moving forward, what and how will an avant-garde and progressive leader move our country forward with peace and harmony? How? That's a big question today. And will market forces and social media, not Robin Hood politicians, bring about the desperate changes that Dominica needs today in order to get a new sense of order, purpose, and direction? These are questions we need to ask ourselves poignantly. This independence anniversary leaves me with a tight knot in my stomach and a feeling of dread in my chest. You may call it Independence Day blues. That expression seems hollow on the surface, but that hollow feeling causes me to reflect on what the independence of our nation might mean for our children and their children henceforth. Is it going to bring about more industrial and technological growth and development? It is going to bring more dignity and hope to our people? One can only wonder. I've always believed that independence means two simple things: that whatever happens will happen and could happen to us is our fault, and that it is within our power to take responsibility and change things. Blaming others is really something we should avoid doing. I believe that if we don't blame ourselves for most of the predicaments that we find ourselves in, then we'll never really be able to change our situation, our lives, and our country for the better. Of course, there are many things in life that are beyond our control, such as pandemics, hurricanes, deaths, financial failures, and personal mishaps. But certainly, there are things and situations that we can change. For me personally, the first rule of being independent is to take charge of what we have, what we can do, and what and how we can plan ahead. As a people, we're always ready to blame politicians, history, the job market, employers, and 100 more others and things. But in the final analysis, it is up to us all, as citizens, especially the young men and women who are educated at the highest levels, to call the shots. What do you want, may I ask? Would you like to have a COVID stimulation relief package? Would you like to have unemployment insurance? Then ask for it, demand it. Other countries have unemployment insurance. Other countries have COVID stimulation relief packages. Why not us? Make it happen. How? You figure it out. Find out what democracy is and where your rights and opportunities lie. Stop vilifying and admiring members of parliament on social media and on radio. Gather your 15,000 strength in numbers and list your demands. No political party or politicians want to rule or can govern and can ignore 20,000 votes. It cannot happen. What else do you want? You don't know? Independence means things are our own responsibility, not others. Independent means that we are responsible for our very action that is taken on our behalf by leaders. Avoid blaming others. As I said before, it's you, it's us. It always has been our fault, your fault, because we need to be more critical about accepting the narratives of others. For younger folks, my advice to you is to read more, attend more forums, teach yourself about the Constitution, the untold story of the nation, and the real lessons of our past leaders. Stop Instagramming, spending time on TikTok and Facebook, or playing computer games for a while, and spend more time reading, discussing, planning the future of your own nation, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your own. The nation's independence is your own personal and individual independence and independent responsibility. Avoid allowing others to shape your nation because her future is entwined with yours. So yes, indeed, today we eagerly await for that bright and optimistic dawn in Dominica again like the one on November 3rd, 1978. The question, will it happen? And if so, how soon? Happy Independence.
My dear brothers and sisters, dearly beloved Dominicans, 43 years ago, on November 3rd, 1978, thousands of us gathered at the Windsor Park in Roseau, Dominica, to see the lowering of the Union Jack, the flag of Britain, and the raising of our new flag of the Commonwealth of Dominica. I remember Time magazine doing an article saying it was a sassy and colorful flag. It was a flag of pride, a flag designed lovingly and brilliantly to encompass Kalinago and African and other heritage and our land and our faith in the cross and in the parrot at the center, with red standing for social justice, by our esteemed Alwyn Bully. Alwyn Bully is someone that I remember at this time, not only because he designed the flag, but he was my teacher from first form, where he taught me English literature and art, and at fifth form, where he was also my teacher. A man who was generous with his time. I have just so many teachers that I remember of that period. People like Dorothy Levy, who taught us English literature, Hubert Charles, who taught us history, Henry Volney, who taught us history. Those were great teachers. Kay Polidor, who taught us Spanish and was our principal at the sixth form. I was at sixth form at the time of independence, and I had the honor and privilege of working with people like Lloyd Pascal and Alvin Bernard and Irving Andre on the independence message and the independence mission, led by Rosie Douglas of the Popular Independence Committee. So I remember Rosie at that time, and his brother Michael Douglas, who also was fervent in the support of Premier Patrick John, who made the independence call. We supported the Dominica Labour Party of Premier John. What was our hope? What was our expectation? Why did we seek independence from Britain? Well, we sought independence from Britain because we had been a colony where the sugarcane plantations worked by our African ancestors who had been enslaved made huge profits, but those profits primarily went back to Britain. We loved our island, which had been the biggest producer of limes in the British Empire, where Elrose and Company, which still exists today, made its millions, its billions, but where the profits from those efforts went back primarily to the United Kingdom. I grew up in a country where the banks, Barclays Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, were owned by foreign entities, where the telephone company, Kibden Wireless, was owned by a British concern, where the electric company was owned by the CDC, Commonwealth Development Corporation. So we wanted a country where we would be able to own the means of production and therefore realize the profits from those entities being used in education, being used in healthcare, road building. And so we could use our human resources, buttressed by that financial wherewithal, to build a better country where justice and freedom would reign. 43 years later, have we accomplished that? Well, brothers and sisters, I am sad to inform you that we have not. I believe it's apparent to any honest, any earnest, any sincere Dominican at home and abroad looking at the statistics that we have entered into a very dark place. A dark place because the current government led by Roosevelt Skerrit has been an abysmal failure. Why? Well, they've been an abysmal failure because they do not respect the Dominican people. They have no confidence in the Dominican people. And Dominicans who are honest and educated are persona non grata in their own land. If you're an engineer and you're Dominican and you're not part of the money laundering elite, you have no place. If you're Dominican and you're an honest Dominican, well-educated medical doctor, and you're not part of the money laundering elite, you have no place. If you're Dominican and you're an architect and you're not part of the inner circle of the money laundering elite, you have no place. On and on it goes. Who are the people ruling Dominica? Most of us do not know. Is it Anthony Hayden, who was given a no-bid contract on $1 billion airport project, the biggest project in the history of Dominica? Who is Anthony Hayden? Is that his real name? Why was there no tender for such a project? Why is it that we continue to see on and on an inability of our people to really be at the commanding heights of our economy? Who runs our economy? Our economy right now is run by 2 or 3 families. We know who they are. They're the ones with the big hotels. They're the ones who sell passports and who are close to the regime. They're the ones who, with their friends in the Middle East, have dominated our country's economy to the disservice of local businesses, to the disservice of our ordinary people, and who have raised in our land a new oligarchy based on class and color. It is a sad testament that the Labour Party, founded by people like Phyllis Chandolfrey, a white Dominican, and Emmanuel Loblack, a black Dominican, dedicated to racial justice, dedicated to social justice, has now been captured by a money laundering elite that has brought into our country, revived rather in our country, the vestiges of racial and class prejudice. That, my friends, is the sad reality today. A country where in agriculture we have an F for failure. In industry we have an F for failure. In aviation we have an F for failure. In culture we have an F for failure. In financial management we have an F for failure. In environmental protection we have an F for failure, as our rivers are gutted, as our aggregate is wantonly plundered without any proper environmental stewardship. In foreign affairs, we have an F for failure, for the many mobsters, banditti, mafiosi, who have been arrested with diplomatic passports. I need not name them, but you know of Alison Madueke, the Nigerian criminal. You know of Angela Seng, the Chinese criminal. You know of Al-Riza Monfared, the Iranian agent and terrorist funder and criminal. Those are the persons who the government of Dominica, of Roosevelt's Carrot, has appointed to represent us, all of them named having been arrested for their criminal conduct. And of course, we have an F in library services, a library gifted us in 1905 by the Scottish-American iron magnate Andrew Carnegie, lies in ruins 4 years after Hurricane Maria, while the government builds palaces for itself and its friends. What do we have an A in? Well, we have an A in police brutality. We have an A in poverty. We have an A in corruption in office. We have an A in a director of public prosecutions that allows for her decisions to be guided by political machinations of the most devious kind. We have an A in a police force that is inattentive to its duty and has allowed for rampant crime to be committed. We have an A in the lack of transparency. My friends, it need not be this way. We can do better because we have a country that God has blessed. If we forget the blessings of our soil, the blessings of the water which runs freely and purely, the blessings of an intelligent people, if we forget all those blessings that God has given us, of a beautiful land, and we are inattentive to those blessings, we shall lose them. I ask all Dominicans of faith to gather and to pray, to draw near, to hold hands and ask God to cleanse us of this cancer of misrule, this tyranny, this anti-democratic criminal tyranny that has plundered our land, and so that we can have a better day, a day in which we all shall have hope. Hope that we can revive a program of youth leadership like the Dominica Cadet Corps, so our young people can be disciplined, law-abiding, industrious, progressive, patriotic, so that our young people are not given monies to wear red shirts or shirts of whatever color, to drink and to jump up and down in the so-called celebratory fashion without a mind to lawful behavior. That we have a police force that is revived with a criminal investigation department and youth clubs with police working hand in hand for community policing, so we can eradicate the scourge of crime of the kind which took the life of Norman Rowell on October 29th, 2021. I ask that we pray for the family of Norman Rowell and all of the Dominicans murdered by our idle youth, a youth that's been left idle by a government that has not provided for them. We want to see the revival of the youth camp at Londonderry or at some more appropriate place if Londonderry is not available, so we can train our young people in the vocational arts, in engineering, in masonry, in plumbing, in electrical services, so that they can wire houses and other projects that are to be built, where we can have our young trained in agriculture. We can see the revival of our agricultural sector, so we can feed ourselves and our sub-region. I'm asking that all of us gather together to do the best we can, knowing that it's only by having the faith in our fathers and mothers of years gone by who taught us the importance of our Christian faith that we can ascend to a better place, where we can be kind, where we can be loving, where we can build a better land, where we can have the agriculture, the industry, the marine science, the water industry, and all of those things that can bring us that which God wishes for us, a place of democracy, of rule of law, of industry, of kindness, where we can all take a rightful place, and we can all be justifiably proud, because our nationality is not being vended like fish at a fish market, but is something to be proud of, something in which we can take dignity, and something upon which we can build. That is what we want for Dominica, and I ask that we do not have any celebration, but we engage rather in profound reflection on that which is required to recapture our independence and to take back our governance from those who have misused it for their own selfish interest. God bless you, Dominica. God bless our beloved land. And may God lead us to victory for a better Dominica. I thank you.
Bon Independence, Dominic. Happy Independence, Dominica. Simone Mathieu, host of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. Here to wish you a happy 43rd Independence anniversary. As we reflect on the past and we look towards the future, let us continue to embrace who we are as Dominicans, as people with a formidable ancestry of African and Kalinago ancestors. Let us stand in unity as we face the future together. And don't forget to always take some time to celebrate our beautiful, vibrant Creole culture. So whether you choose to enjoy our music, our food, our cultural wear, remember that this is the time to celebrate who we are, and may we continue to celebrate throughout the year. So let us always continue to remember who we are as we observe and celebrate our heritage during the year. So don't forget, celebrate who you are each and every day. Happy Independence. C'est pour nous venir ensemble pour travailler, pour lever Dominique. So we need to come together, to work together, to continue to advance Dominica, to continue to advance the lives of our brothers and sisters at home and abroad. So happy Independence, Dominica. Bon Independence, Dominique.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard quite some information tonight. It's already 11 minutes past 8 o'clock in the evening. I have one more person on the call here tonight. I'm going to ask her to share a few thoughts, and I want to engage the panel for probably the next 10, 15 minutes following that. And I want to engage you based on a review. What we want to do a little bit of review, just from all what we've heard from all of these comments tonight, a little bit of review for a few minutes. And we'll take a few more of these clips and we will begin to do a real assessment, a real current assessment. But Nurse Sanford is on the call with us this evening. A very good evening to you, my dear nurse. I was about saying I have a headache in my toe. Very good evening to you, Nurse Sanford.
She later on mute mic.
Good evening to you, Pastor Rodney, and good evening to the rest of the panel members. Good evening to the listeners of Q, both at home here in Dominica and both abroad.
Good evening to you, my dear, and I trust that you have your own thoughts as well, and as concise as possible. Let's have it, please.
All right, so first of all, I just want to say congratulations to the people of the Kalinago territory and people of the Waitukubuli by extension. Happy Independence. I got lost. What? Hello?
Keep going. You're loud and clear.
Sorry, I got lost there for a bit. Okay. As a proud member of the Kalinago territory, I must say that we have made some strides throughout the years. We are not where we are supposed to be. There's room for improvement. There's much more that we desire. But we do have few people that we are thankful for. Of course, the late Honorable Patrick John. We also are very thankful for the Black Power movement and our dear Kalinago chief, who is still alive, Mr. Faustulus Frederick, who played a key role in the signing of the documents for independence. So we are grateful for these people. As a leader of the tribe, I am extremely grateful that we were able to be part of that movement towards independence. Going forward, of course, there are, like I said, many things that we yearn for. In terms of our education system, our culture, more investments into our culture. We also look forward to better opportunities for youths in terms of employment and the economic activity here in the territory. We look forward to building opportunities as well for everyone who are able to come to the territory to enjoy what we have to offer and to see more effort being placed into our communities and building this resilient community, as we put it, so that the world can see that we as an indigenous people are are a surviving tribe. We have gone through a lot of hurdles, and we are still continuing the struggle. I say we are still continuing the struggle because we have not gotten to the level where we are supposed to be. And as we continue to fight, I want to encourage our Kalinago brothers and sisters to not give up hope. We have come this far, 43 years, and we are still fighting. We're still struggling, but I believe that if we come together as one, we can achieve much more together. So thank you, and I hope that I will contribute more as the discussion goes along.
I am sure that you will. I'm sure that you will, Nurse Sanford. In our review, and I want every one of you to think about it and be able to share a few sentences in that regard. Some of you, whether you are, as numbered as Mr. G is, or as have few numbers as probably Nurse Sanford is, from whatever your perspective is. Severin, McKenzie, and I think OJ, as well as Gabu, alluded to the fact that when we got into independence, there was a unity of purpose, such that some of those, that is, who opposed even the government then, saw independence as something that they could unite around. So you had the popular independence movement, who did not, most of them at the time did not support the Labour Party, but they saw independence as the way to go. We had a loud hue and cry from them. Of course, there was the opposition from the then opposition party, the Dominican Freedom Party, as it were. But generally, at that time, there was a coming together of like minds, if I may put it that way. Give us some thoughts, and probably, OJ, I'm going to start with you in that regard. Give us some thoughts as to, in your own thinking, where have we lost that, or do we have that? Is there a possibility for us to get back there? And I want you all to share that as passionately, but I really want you to be able to concise it, to press it, so we can deal with all these other groups and all this information that I'd like us to share this evening. OJ, where are we as far as that's concerned as you review 1978 to this place as far as the unity of purpose is concerned?
Thank you for the question you are asking. It is a very deep, profound search that we have to make in going backwards and analyze where we came from. Because a country without a history, without looking back in the past, cannot really understand where they are and how we can go forward. I grew up being very fortunate in having been with family in the remote village of Grand Fond, where Severin McKenzie's roots comes from. In fact, we are cousins. And in the early days, I remember walking the trail from Loda to Grand Fond. And there have remained with me the magic of Dominica. Walking through the hills and listening to the birds, the sifflemutin, the various birds of the forest, the gurgling sound of the rivers of that area, very cold and deep. And then the walking through the mud, you pick up something about this country that stays with you and creates that love. And it is therein that Libla came in, and he changed the movement of people around. From having to walk miles through the Carib territory, for example, the Carib territory folks would come through to the hills of Grand Fond to go down with their Carib baskets. And my grandfather, who happened to have been a Carib, would be the home. He had a bakery and he had lodgings. And there the Caribs would come in. I call them Caribs because that's what they were then, not Kalinago at the time. And you build up an intimate relationship. My mother had a shop in the Roseau area in the old market. And the Carib community would be using her place as a place of placing their stuff when they come in, shopping and leaving their stuff there. And so there was that camaraderie that grew up in my family unit. So I grew with that understanding. I also had a father who was very, very involved in the political process of Dominica. He was a godfather to E.C. Loblack's child, one of his children. He was also a godfather to Ducre's son. He was a godfather to F.O.C. Harris, who was a big time politician in those days. And in that home, there was the visit of R.O.P. Amor, of Ioli Blanc, and there came in that fire to get involved. And what was prominent, and I went this background so we can understand that in those days there was Malewe, there was Country Buki, and there were the privileged and the aristocrats of Roseau, based upon just the name, the surname, and so forth. So that the Labour Party that came out of Philly Channel, all free, E.C. Black, and Ducre, and Mrs. James, and even persons like Elkin Henry, who came on board later on, all those persons, their struggle was a struggle to change the social system of Dominica. And believe me, we did get the social revolution. We did, in fact, succeed. First of all, by ways and means, including the Cuban scholarship program that's referred to by McKenzie, where as the Prime Minister, I'm just giving a little bit more information here. I didn't meet Fidel at the United Nations because of the C and D factor, and Dominica just got Hurricane David, and he agreed to arrange for Dominica to get some benefits out of Cuba, which they could offer with scholarships. That was negotiated with the ambassador of Maurice Bishop in Grenada, followed by me sending Dr. we used to call him Bernard Wilshire as my representative. Rosie Douglas was unaware that we were being represented, and he did attend, but he had to stay on the sidelines because the official person who represented us was, in fact, this gentleman who was from the UE campus, and I chose him to go, and he represented us well. Later on, of course, Rosie did very well, together with the rest of the Labour Party, when the Freedom Party refused the Cuban scholarship program. I am looking at a magazine here by the Dominica Guild of Graduates, and I refer to the fact that there's a statement that was made by Dr. Dublin where he confirms it. He says the scholarship program continues to serve as the most economical venue to train our potential medical and other practitioners. The Cuban scholarship program, which began under the interim government.
But OJ,
so I am pleased that Severin
OJ,
recognizes this as one of the most critical aspects of our development. And I will say this too. That the Kalinago people were deprived themselves of the opportunity to go to high schools in Roseau because of the difficulties of economics, etc. But when I was able to respond to the Methodist Church and the St. Andrews High School came aboard and giving to the Kalinago people free bus services, they were able to go in large numbers to that institution, and hence come the change, the transformation.
OJ, I would
suggest that we need to go back in history to understand where we are now.
Right. Now, what I really want us I want to get some precise answers on this unity then. We were almost with one voice. So on that night, November 2nd into November 3rd, there was nostalgia. There were some people thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to be independent. What is going to happen to us? And there was this concern. And there was a one voice about the welfare of the nation. Mr. G, do you have any thoughts on that? And I'm going to come to you, Sevs, and let's do that, like I said, as crisp as possible.
No, Pastor Rodney, I think clearly, I mean, I was not in the delegation, anywhere close to it that OJ was in. He has a lot more precise information about the nostalgia, what went on. I mean, can you imagine being in a room in the UK where you're actually engaging with these colonial masters about your independence? Well, obviously, it wasn't really all a one-sided affair because I think at that time they really wanted to get rid of us too. They had already exploited all our resources, had taken all our wealth, and we were becoming a burden on them. And one of the things I think we may have missed in terms of the negotiation, OJ, is that may have missed the fact that they may have wanted to get rid of us as much as we wanted to become independent. And so maybe we did not demand as much as we could have, and we could have probably built a much stronger foundation for development of our country if we had what we had as a result of that. When we came back, of course, well, they gave us our freedom, so to speak, but they still took control. We still had the statehood. You still had the guys still in control, right? And really, we never really had the chance to develop our natural assets because we're still selling our limes to Gist, and Gist control most of the estates, and they were still exploiting all the resources and taking everything back. And later on, of course, they took away from us the privilege of the advantage in the market for the bananas. So we no longer had that. So even that was taken, swept from under our feet. The Americans, in fact, were principally responsible for that. So Pastor Rodney, there was this nostalgia, yes, but at the same time, I think if we had been a lot more aware of the fact that these people wanted to get rid of us as much as we wanted to get out of there, we maybe have negotiated a little harder. Maybe we could have got an airport at that time.
Sebs, let me hear your answer on this one, and let's see if we can bend it towards what I don't see we have now in terms of unity of purpose around the country. Sebs.
Pastor Ronnie, just 1 second. Let me just also acknowledge that we do have Dr. Thompson Fountain with us, and I see Sam Raphael is with us as well. So I wanted to just acknowledge them. And I know that Thompson Fountain is a young fellow, but in his neck of the woods is probably 7 hours ahead of us. So he's still there with us, and he must be very sleepy. So I hope, Thompson, if you're hearing us, I hope you'll be able to make a contribution before you fall asleep.
Certainly, we'll get to him shortly.
Yes.
Okay, if I make a quick contribution, I think one of the main contributors to what happened during the independence celebrations of 1978 was the level of consciousness that we were able to achieve from the movement of the for New Dominica and all the various groups that were involved in political education. And you had a very active cadre of young people who participated in developmental activities. You know, I think one of the main problems that we have now is, and I usually refer it, I think our people are more stupid, to put it bluntly, now than although with all the information that we have at our disposal, our people are more stupid today than they were in 1978. Because with the work that was done with the PIC and the Bernard Wiltshire Working People's Vanguard and Para Rivier's People's Democratic Party and the farmers, you know, quite a number of organizations that came up, that emerged on the scene, educating people. You found that people who were reading a lot. The Chronicle was selling maybe thousands of copies every weekend. You had the Star, you had the Herald, you had all these newspapers. Even the DLM, the Dominican Liberation Movement Alliance, had its own bulletin coming out, and you got people who were reading. And not only that, a lot of you had these active student councils in the various secondary schools that participated in discussion and educated the youth. I mean, tonight may be a clear example of where we are, that it is difficult to get a young person to participate in an activity like this. In the 70s, you would have an abundance of young people because, you know, one of the things that I marvel about, I have a copy of the Dominican Liberation Movement Alliance manifesto of 1980. And in 1980, do you know that we had how many? 4 political parties, major political parties, participating in the elections of 1980. And all the political parties were able to seal in a slate of 21 candidates. And when you looked at the quality, of the candidates that participated in the 1980 elections compared to the quality of candidates that participate in elections in the last elections, we could almost say it is chalk and cheese.
I want us to think of that and probably revisit it because, Severin, my humble view is that probably that is a symptom of a different disease. And we probably need to look at it maybe a little deeper in terms of the political education. Probably there's a nexus with the what I've referred to cultic worship, with the political education. Probably we have gotten to a place where we need to look at it vis-a-vis our thoughts on economic progress, because it is my considered opinion that quite possibly we are so myopic in economic progress that we don't see the forest for the trees. Coincidentally, as a young person, I was just out of grammar school, 16 plus, and Oliver James Seraphin is there, and he will remember that I was an avid campaigner. I couldn't vote yet. Right? I couldn't vote yet, right, Sebs? But I was reading the DLM papers. I was listening to these guys speaking. My ears were tuned in to the likes of Morris Bishop in the Caribbean and all the rest of the leaders then. I knew what was happening politically. I knew what was happening within my own nation. So I could pull out the best speakers, even at 16 plus. Like I said, I was hardly 17, just out of grammar school. That is a different era today, and I'm wondering why. Dr. Simone Mathieu, I wanted to make a comment on that, and then I'm going to go to Dr. Thompson Fontaine as far as that's concerned before we take the next group of clippings. I want us to begin to think about that and cause our audience to kind of think through where we are now and where we're coming from in terms of the review. Dr. Simone Mathieu, a few comments from you on that, and then I'm going to go to Dr. Thompson Fontaine before we take the next set of clips.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Rodney. Good evening to everyone. A special good evening to everyone joining us on Q95 on the radio and those who are locked in on Facebook. And in case I don't have another opportunity to do so, let me just quickly acknowledge some of the folks who have been hanging out with us on Facebook: Montex Barron, Didi Esther, Peony Shirley, Elizabeth Douglas, Marceline Edwards, Michael Alexis, Addie John, Shari Brian. So thank you so much for being here with us, being a part of the conversation this evening. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to take your comments. Neto, Ammon Trading, Peter Xavier, Dave Bertrand, and it goes on. So I just want to say good evening and thank you for having me on the program. And it is great that despite the challenges that we face, that everywhere I saw on social media, Dominicans celebrating their culture and saluting the country for our 43rd independence anniversary. Unfortunately, I'm not old enough to remember the day, so hopefully that qualifies me as a younger person on the panel, because I certainly do not remember the day. I was absolutely too young to remember the exact day. But I think that the important thing to note is that the unity that we speak of the past is what we are trying to recreate today. So I think that each and every one of us here on the panel in Dominica, at home and abroad, and I like to think of Dominica as this borderless place where we have 70,000 people in Dominica, but we have about 150,000 people in the diaspora, and each one of us has a role to play in developing Dominica, in advancing the lives of Dominicans at home and abroad, despite the challenges. So if you think about it, just looking at the panel this evening, as well as some of the information that is already provided, we have people who have to serve in the political system to try to make changes for Dominica in that area. We have people in engineering. So we have people in just about every field in society. And we have to work to circumnavigate the obstacles that are in our way right now to be able to continue the development of Dominica. So this is where I see the importance of the unity that we speak of so profoundly back when we worked towards independence. This is where the unity comes about, because we all have a role to play in terms of, and I think Dr. Finn said it very well, in terms of, the power is in our hands. I believe that's what he said, that we have the power to move our country. Yes, we lack a number of national policies. We lack a number of guidance options from the government, but within our own selves, we have to look at ourselves and say, what are my skills? What are my talents? What can I bring to the table so that I can help someone maybe in Dominica? Maybe I have a business and they have a business in Dominica. And thanks to the beauty of technology, look at us sitting on this panel. We have folks in Dominica, we have folks in Canada, we have folks in the US, and we're able to collaborate. So the unity, that spirit of unity that we talk about from when we gained independence, it needs to be revitalized, so that instead of us focusing so much on what is not, we spend some time, yes, what is not is important, but we also spend some time on building social capital, building those relationships, so that the man on the ground, while we're working to foster change in the political system, the man, the woman, the child on the ground has those financial opportunities that they need to advance their life. So we're building that synergy, so where we have the opportunity to create financial opportunities, because I think that we can all agree that that is one of the main factors that we would like to see for the growth and development of Dominica. We would like to see all sectors engaged and people provided with the opportunity to be able to live independently. So I just wanted to make that contribution. I hope it answers your question, Pastor Rodney, and I look forward to being a part of the program and continuing the discussion.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Thompson Fontaine, expand that for me. What do we have to do now? We had the Herald, we had the Chronicle, we had the Star, and we had the DLM papers, and we had O.J. Seraphin, and we had Patrick Rowland John, and we listened to Eugenia Charles at times, and we heard Ronan David, and we listened to all of these, yet we made up our minds on stuff. Even as students of the Dominica Grammar School, we got fumes from Elrose, and we decided we weren't taking this anymore, and we left the school because we felt empowered to do that. When was it Mikey Bruni or one of the other guys that was transferred from DBS? I remember this thing, and even grammar school decided that we were going out and demonstrate. Right? Back then, we had a voice, we were thinking, we were reading, we knew what was happening. What do we have to do today, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, for us to be able to kind of galvanize that kind of mindset?
Well, a very good evening to everyone. I'm incredibly honored to be part of this esteemed panel. You see, just want to shout out all of you that are on here tonight. Former Prime Minister O.J. Seraphin, it's good to see you again. All of you, Sheridan, Gregoire, Sev, it's great to see you. You know, I was thinking, Simone, how are you? I was thinking actually that long before the NEP became vogue, where young people were paid for cleaning the villages. We did that in the 80s and 90s. I remember Sev was part of the village improvement committee that would clean up our village, and not look for a cent from government to do that. We did it out of a sense of civic duty. At that time, I think it was Singular who mentioned earlier the whole spirit of Kutme, how that has disappeared from our population. And it is sad when you reflect on where Dominica has been and where we are. It is terribly sad. It is heart-wrenching, to say the least. Sometimes you want to think of a brighter, better country that we had, where people looked out for each other, where we cooperated with each other, where the first question was not who you voted for, but how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we help each other? We worked together, we did things together, we built stuff. We were able to dream as young kids growing up, dream to become, of becoming great, dream of moving beyond, sometime beyond the shores of our own island. And I see today, sadly, the dreams of so many young people have been dashed. So you wonder, after all these years of independence, what really Dominica has become. And in listening to the various contributors tonight, Gabriel Christian, for example, and the others, Simone and others who spoke, you feel very much for Dominica. And even as we, face this notion that we are an independent country, you wonder where have we gone? We've gone back in every single area. I mean, at one time, Dominica had so much manufacturing, so much agriculture, so much, promise. This is all gone because at the head of our country, we have a gentleman who sadly has sold out the country, who sadly has put the resources of the country in the hands of a foreigner who turns around and charges us for using our money to do stuff for us. And you wonder how we got to that point. How did it happen? And so I think it's a good time, as we are on this program tonight, to reflect on where we are today and where we want to go as a country, and what we need to do to get us out of this morass, out of this hellhole that we now exist in, or survive, or just about live in Dominica. And so, so many thoughts are going through my mind, but I think the one that's probably coming, that's taking the most prominence, is what went wrong, what happened to us as a people. Where is our sense of decency? Young people going around killing old people. I mean, where did we go wrong? What happened to us? So these are the things that I'm being confronted with now. And when you think of the tremendous potential that the country always had, and how much of that potential is being stifled. Gabriel talked about people who appear to be educated not being given any kind of way to operate in Dominica. The evil conniving of this government, for example, trying to put me in jail for doing nothing, basically. Where have we gone wrong? And so it's a good time. And Sheridan, let me thank you so much for this. I thank you for this discussion, for this conversation tonight. Maybe, just maybe, our consciences will be a little bit encouraged. I see that Sam has disappeared. Hopefully he will come back, because it'll be great to hear from him. And yeah, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity, and wish you guys, I'm still awake, but wish you guys happy independence.
Thanks, Thompson, and thanks for being awake. That's a sacrifice for you, we know, and thanks for being here. Here's something else I want you all to think about, and we will take a few clips, Mr. G. But I want you to think about the question that Thompson just raised. What has happened? What, in fact, has happened? What happened from the time we came together and we gained political independence and we were, working this thing together? We still had differences in opinions. Back then, we had political ideologies, I think, You know, we had different political ideologies, yet we would do some things together, and we would be able to stop some people. We would be able to say, no, you can't do that. We'd be able to say, no, no, no. We raise our hands and say, hey, we won't take that. What has gone wrong? That we have taken so much and we are where we are today. Let's take a few of these clips on the group, what I have labeled as group 2. And that begins with former Prime Minister Edison Shenfield James. We'll hear from Mrs. Lorraine Delsol, from Tahira Blanchard, the leader of the APP. We'll hear from my friend Arundel Thomas, from Janice Williams, from Dr. Swinburne Augustine, from Dr. Dion Robinson Armour, and Simeon Joseph. Let's listen in and let's glean some stuff from these very, very important voices.
Greetings to the viewers and or the listeners of Global View and Q. I trust that all is well with you fellow citizens, residents, and well-wishers of the Commonwealth of Dominica. It is a pleasure for me, and I'm happy to respond to the request from the host of this program to say a few words in the context of our 43rd anniversary of independence. Independence happened in 1978, 43 years ago. That is a year which has significance for me in the context of it being our independence year, and also that is the birth year of my third and last child. As we move forward, let me recognize the efforts and the contributions of those who have who were the initiators of this whole process, the people and the leaders of our country, initiators of this process, which and the people who worked towards the development and the advancement of our country as an independent country. Our country as an independent country has its form and substance, if you like, in our constitution. That is a constitution which the preamble tells us that we are a people, or country rather, is founded upon the principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God. It asserts the belief of the people in a democratic society, and that in that democratic society there should be opportunity for advancement on the basis of the recognition of merit, ability, and integrity. Our Constitution recognizes that men and institutions remain free only where freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. The Constitution also speaks to the citizens having an adequate means of livelihood, and that adequate means of livelihood should be for all. As we seek to give substance to these ambitions and to these commitments, we reflect on the fact that we've had, over the last 43 years as a country, we've made advances, but we've had setbacks that were man-made, setbacks that have to do with natural disasters beyond our control, setbacks that have to do with factors beyond our control that are external and that are global. We're talking, for instance, about, you've heard about financial meltdowns, financial crisis. We have now with us COVID. As we talked about man-made setbacks, we had in 79, what we were involved in 79, and then of course we've had the hurricanes. But we have used the resources that were available to us. Key among those would be the land, the water, the soil, to which we applied our management skills to produce for us, to allow us to generate income, generate revenue. So essentially, over the years of independence, we have been an agricultural country, as they say, producing bananas, coconuts, citrus, root crops, and the like. We've used the nature aspect of our country to attract persons from outside within the to build up a tourism industry. And of course, we've used our sovereignty with respect to the CBI to attract funding. During that time, there was talk, there were allegations, there were assertions of coup, attempted coup, coal wash brigade and all those things. There were assertions that the government at some stage, 79, 78, 79, was dangerous. In the end, it is true that the government was removed without general elections intervening. So we've had those situations. But we built institutions over those years. We managed and operated those institutions in our interest. We maintained infrastructure, roads and so on. We built a new infrastructure, roads, schools, bank, social security, parliament building. We built houses. Some of those houses were, ownership of those houses, some of those houses were given to the people for whom they were built. Some of those houses remain the property of the government. That is an issue. We built and operated a public service headed by and run by people who were trained over the years and who did their best. We had an independent private sector, which was regarded as the engine of growth. And we had free and fair elections. We've never, until relatively recent times, had a situation where free and fair elections became an issue. So we have to look at that. During that period, early period, we've had, 5 different governing regimes. You've had 7 prime ministers. 2 regimes of those 5 shared 37 years of those 43 years in control. And 2 prime ministers served 32 of those 43 years. So it's been a mixed bag. There, we have to now reflect on how we go forward, or look at how we go forward. It is true that we have to acknowledge where we are, what has gone wrong, where things have not gone as they should, and then put ourselves in a position to do better. Our institutions have been compromised. And you take, for example, the integrity in public office provisions, the IPO, that has been severely compromised. One would say that there's been some measure of compromising in the operations of the office of the DPP, and the null pros of that case, dealing with treating and bribery, is a matter that has to be of concern. Then there's the politicization of our local institutions, the village councils. And there is the situation where we need to look at the extent to which, in operating and to discharging its functions to serve and protect, that the police can say it has been fair, in its actions vis-a-vis the opposition parties in opposition in this country. There has been a disproportionate I don't want to say, central to our forward movement as we head towards our golden jubilee is free and fair elections. Systems must be put in place to ensure that there's electoral reform, because this, in our context, is at the heart of the democratic process. There must also be attention paid to the equitable distribution of the resources of this country, equitable distribution of opportunities for everyone in this country. We have to pay attention to broadening our economic and revenue base. We cannot continue to depend so heavily, almost exclusively, on the CBI program. We must determine that we must teach our people, not only through the schools, but throughout our country, about our Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution, and how we must implement the provisions of our Constitution. There must be public discussion on these issues, not only the issue of the Constitution, what it provides and how it should be implemented, but on the general functioning of our country. Going forward, we must repatriate the control of our country. It cannot be that our major source of revenue is under the control of someone and under the control without transparency. Transparency has to be pivotal in this whole forward movement. Let us do everything to not allow a situation where, as was referred to earlier, that anyone can genuinely describe our government as being a danger to the people. The framers of the Constitution envisage that that Constitution would be operated by people who are responsible and people who are honorable, people who are honest. So let us commit ourselves to be just that, people who are honorable, people who are responsible, people who are honest in how we operate our constitutions. So that by the time we reach that milestone, 50 years, we will truly be able to say that we have achieved, if not in its totality, substantially, the expectations, the aspirations, the hope of the framers of the Constitution, and we can be a people who live in harmony with each other, in harmony with nature, and in harmony with our commitment that we are a people who believe in the supremacy of God and in the equitable distribution of the resources of our country. I thank you very much, and I wish all of you all the best, a happy independence, and God bless you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sheridan. Thank you for having me express my views on the eve of Dominica's 43rd anniversary of independence, on where I see Dominica in the next 7 years. Dominica, considered to be the nature isle of the Caribbean and of the world, has much potential for growth in every possible aspect: finance, agriculture, infrastructure, education, entrepreneurship, healthcare and health management, mental health, tourism, recycling, customer service, you name it. But tonight, I choose to focus solely on the social aspect of what is holding our country back. The people of Dominica now own bigger homes, fancy cars and motorcycles, wear the latest fashion, but have become a less caring society, a me society, a take-it-all-you-can-get society. And if we stop being a caring nation, we are doomed to fail as a people. The people of Dominica have to get away from that me mentality and get back to the time when we cared and looked out for each other, when we fed our neighbors if our neighbors were hungry, when we looked after our neighbors' children, when we corrected them, when we respected the children and the children respected adults. The people of Dominica have to stop looking for handouts. They have to stop looking to get something for nothing. Instead, they should try helping, do something for your community, whether you're going to get paid or not. Do some volunteer work. Where are the Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, and Brownies today? There was a time when every elementary and high school had at least one social group in that category. I remember being part of the Girl Guide organization. Back then, we visited the elderly, took care of them, we cleaned for them, we made up beds, swept the yards, we kept them company. This is not happening today. Part of the problem begins with the school system. We tend to copy too much of what is going on elsewhere in the world, whether it be good or bad. Today, it's all about academics with no skills and common sense. No social clubs where the students interact with each other in social settings. These settings, whether sports-related or glee clubs, were great team builders. They were the preparation tools for the future. A society needs minds of different categories in order to flourish. A society needs doctors as well as sanitary workers, lawyers as well as street vendors, professors as well as drain cleaners. And each and every one, regardless of the path chosen, should be treated with the utmost respect and dignity. Another topic I would like to give my opinion on is the division of the country. Dominica has become a country that if you're not red, you're blue, and vice versa. If you support one party, then you are the enemy of another. If one makes a comment, then it is viewed as a personal attack. I would like to ask why. Why so much hatred for one another? This has to stop. We are one Dominica, one people. People should learn to work together, work with each other in unity for a more productive society. That's the only way to move forward. Have we forgotten the proverb, united we stand, divided we fall?
The Alternative People's Party, Dominica's newest and evolving political party, was founded on January 12, 2020, in response to the people's need for a fresh approach to politics and the fostering of new and creative ideas to tackle and solve the development needs of the people. Dominicans expressed a need for an alternative team which would unite the people for economic progress, collective success, and individual growth. As the name suggests, APP is committed to serve as an alternative force for good and decency in Dominican politics. This year, 2021, Dominica celebrates its 43rd anniversary of political independence under the theme, United in Purpose, Our Health, Our Heritage, Our Future. We wish everyone a safe, enjoyable, and spirit-filled celebration. This is an opportune time for us as a nation to stop and reflect on the theme, which is an inspiring but challenging one. Our health and the demand for improved healthcare is now a greater challenge with the advent of COVID-19 and its severe effects on health resources. While we honor our rich heritage, it has been under growing attack from varying external forces, particularly the influence of the internet and the promotion of foreign artists and sports over our very own. Our future beckons us to ask the question, what have we achieved for the past 43 years of independence as a nation, and in particular, over the last 20 years of the current administration? We are all cognizant of the natural disasters, to include Tropical Storm Erica in 2015 and Hurricane Maria in 2017. But significantly, we must assess the human disaster occasioned by bad political governance, which has brought about a stagnated economy, with our nation saddled with high unemployment, high poverty, low resilience, environmental degradation, and deteriorating social cohesions. The APP has heard the clear cry of the people for equal opportunity for all and justice. There is a clear need to save our country from descending into insecurity and chaos, and to avert an impending economic disaster and restore the economic dignity of our people. There is no better time than during this celebration to sing the clarion call for good, transparent, and accountable governance, which are the hallmarks of our democracy. We must abide by the rule of law and the democratic values and principles that we inherited from our forefathers, and preserve it for our present and future generations. To this end, there is urgent need to restore the ability of the people to freely and fairly elect a government of their will. This can only be achieved through comprehensive electoral reform, a long outstanding promise by the Prime Minister. Where do we want to see ourselves as a nation in the next 7 years, when we celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence? We would like to see a Dominica where agriculture would again be the saving grace of our nation, where money is put into the hands of the farmers, where every elite farmer would have the opportunity to have a home built on their property through an APP government initiative. We will make farming and agriculture a basic necessity and national priority. We would like to see a Dominica where the youth are given opportunities in sports, music, culture, information technology, agriculture, housing, and business ownership support. A Dominica where there will be an established state-of-the-art cultural center and home of the youth, complete with a functional library, skills training, conference facility, and IT recreational and creation center. A Dominica where emphasis will be placed on training the youth for job opportunities within the digital sector. At age 50, we would like to see a Dominica where low-income earners and younger Dominicans can benefit from a first-time home owners program, where our people will from day one have complete ownership of their homes. A Dominica where our vulnerable homeless citizens and senior citizens will be given homes. The health of the people is the wealth of the nation. We would love to see a Dominica where our citizens no longer have to travel for medical emergencies, where there will be no more loss of life due to lack of emergency care. A Dominica where there will be the establishment of a national health insurance scheme and access to free health care to those who cannot afford it. A Dominica where there will be heavy focus on New Age tourism and the development of sports and health tourism, where opportunities will be endless for Dominicans in the service sector, especially smaller enterprises like shops, boutiques, beauty salons, and spas. At age 50, we envision a Dominica where we can boast again a very vibrant agro-processing industry. A Dominica that belongs to all Dominicans, where there will be equal opportunity for all.
Greetings, fellow citizens. My name is Arundel Thomas from the once vibrantly independent community of Newtown, Charlottesville, more specifically La Cousette-Lang. Most, if not all of us, are familiar with the opening words of this endearing song by the Stifling Moutai Chorale. O Dominica, the land of beauty, the land of verdure and glorious sunshine. I believe that these words meant more than simply a celebration of our royal mountains, undulating hills, fertile soil, vibrant waterfalls, our springs, crystal clear rivers, our sapphire blue sea, and the warm, scintillating sunshine after a refreshing shower. It was indeed a joyful celebration of who we were and what we stood for as a nation then. It was a celebration of our industry and resilience, our respect for the Constitution, the rule of law, and the institutions of state. It was a celebration of our dedication to hard work, our selfless service, the common love for each other. The song celebrated our joy as we worked collectively to develop Dominica in agriculture, in fishing and manufacturing, in dance, in drama and song. It was a celebration of the spirit embedded in our national song, quote, all for each and each for all, unquote. But we are losing that country. Can we say that this land of beauty still exists? So we have work to do to restore the soul of our dear country. I am reminded of the words of British poet and essayist Thomas Babington Macaulay, quote, and how can man fear better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers, the temples of his gods, unquote. These words provide a frame of reference for the difficult task we face to re-establish that pristine beauty of spirit that Dominica once possessed. We are faced with a formidable challenge to regain our pride and independence, to give life to the hard work and sacrifice of our forefathers. Dominica is our temple, and we must come together to face the fearful challenges to give ourselves and our future generations a better chance. We must review our education system and create a system that teaches more than mathematics, language arts, science, and social studies in person or online. We must recapture the Dominica, where education teaches us to be more socially and politically conscious, where we engage a wider spectrum of political, social, and cultural discourse at our schools, an education which fashions a better, more resourceful Dominican person. Yes, one in which we boldly face the fearful odds by rejecting governance that is inimical to our national development, one that lays a more lasting and truly resilient foundation that reflects the land of beauty, the land of verdure, and the glorious sunshine that we all seek. Let us all reflect on this challenge as we celebrate our 43rd year of political independence. God bless you all.
What a joy it is to see how far we've come as a nation. On this, our 43rd day of independence, happy independence to my fellow citizens. As we ponder on the various ways that we as a people can come together and contribute our talents, skills, and ideas to put Dominica on a more viable economic path, we acknowledge that there will be many challenges along the way. To ensure that there is much more to celebrate on her Golden Jubilee in the next several years, we must identify the challenges and put our hearts and minds and voices to the task. I would like to see changes in our laws of Dominica, which would make the country safer for citizens and visitors. We need to explore creative ways to use
our natural resources to create jobs for the youth. We need to develop a more positive attitude and demonstrate greater love for country and for each other. We need to restore self-leadership, elect leaders who care as much for country as they care for themselves. That, my fellow citizens, is a daunting but not impossible task. To succeed, though, we must work collectively with the national good as our goal. We must demand a change in the attitude of government. Remind them that they are elected by the people, for the people, and as such, realize that they must work for the development of all citizens. To ensure a better, more progressive Dominica in the future, we must unite under the banner of what is truly best for our country. Thus, anchor in our efforts in the words of our national anthem, all for each and each for all. I thank you.
Happy 43rd Independence Day, Dominica. This is Dr. Swinburne Augustine, and it is an honor to wish our nature island all the very best today and going forward. You have given so much to so many of us over the years. I can still remember vividly that day in 1978 in Windsor Park as we gained our independence from Great Britain. You and our people have shown tremendous resilience in the face of so much adversity, yet you continue to persevere. As we celebrate this year's independence, many are threatened by a global pandemic that has claimed the lives of 31 of our fellow citizens. It is my hope and prayer that not another life is lost. Sure, there will be other challenging times. However, you have demonstrated an uncanny ability to bounce back and to keep moving forward. The Dominican spirit is strong and lives deep inside each of your sons and daughters, no matter where we may reside. We fly your flag with honor, respect, and love, and our patriotism is unquestionable. We will fight for you with all our might at home and abroad, because there would be no us without you. As we look forward to the next 43 years, let me urge each of us to remember that we are first and foremost Dominicans. We are brothers and sisters forged in the ruggedness of our country. It pains me deeply to see rancor and division, especially based on partisan politics. Let us agree to disagree. Let us fight our political battles. Let us be passionate in our support of whichever party and leader we choose. However, we must not and should not disrespect each other based on the choices we make. Remember that we reflect our country to the region and to the rest of the world. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We may be small in size, but massive in intelligence, beauty, culture, and kindness. Our hearts are large. Our Kalinago people named you Whitey Kubuli. Tall is her body. We continue to stand tall wherever we go and make you proud. The next few years will be challenging. Global problems like climate change and its potential for serious harm is already weighing on you. We must prepare. We must be smart. But most importantly, we must support each other and work together to preserve the beautiful island that God has gifted to us. You are beyond blessed, Dominica. Many countries don't have water today. Yes, water.
that fundamental ingredient of life. Yet, we have a river for every day of the year, 365 of them. That is rich and that is massive. And so, as we celebrate today, let us also reflect. Let us remember the ones who have brought us this far and pray for our current and future leaders. Let us pray for each other and lift each other up. Let us unite as Dominicans, not as political partisans, not as religious fanatics, not Rasta versus Babylon, but as who we are, fundamentally Dominicans. Finally, as we battle COVID-19, let us use common sense, respect, and love of country to protect our citizens. Let us protect our most vulnerable, the elderly, those too young to be vaccinated, and those with underlying conditions that put them at greater risk for bad outcomes. Why? Because we are our brother's keeper. Let us demonstrate that love by getting vaccinated so that we can put this miserable pandemic behind us. Go on, celebrate, enjoy, sing, dance, party, but do so safely. Happy Independence, Dominica. Much love today and always.
A Salute to Dominica on her 43rd Independence by Dr. Dion Robinson. Where do I start with this salutation to Dominica on the celebration of her 43rd year of independence? Being only 44, all I know is growing up in the independent republic, the Commonwealth of Dominica. Thankfully, I never experienced the colonial days. In my formative years, we had a female prime minister, Dame Eugenia Charles. For the first 15 years of my life, she ran this country, even earning the title as the Iron Lady. As a little girl, I looked up to her as an example of what I can achieve. I never knew of a glass ceiling until I left Dominica to further my studies in the US. I spent 23 years out of Dominica, returning on every possible occasion because my heart was always in Dominica. Everything I did was intentional to return to contribute to her further development. Returning as a retiree was never an option. This island, her people, our culture, our heritage, was so ingrained in me that nowhere else could be home. My heart is here. Maybe because my dad always took us around the island on weekends. His favorite spots were Emerald Pool followed by the freshwater lake. We would stop along the way to pick wild raspberries growing on the side of the road, and many times for Seuss water. Dominica gave me a childhood like no other. Because of the freedoms gained under our Constitution, I was able to enjoy a childhood freely without anyone, but my parents, dictating my movements. From going to the beach with my friends in the afternoon while in high school, to running to Palm Grove for a quick river bath between classes at Sixth Form College, now known as Dominica State College, when it was located behind the grammar school. I never experienced racism or a feeling of being less than in this independent state. In 1996, I left her shores to continue my studies in the US. Excited for the new experiences ahead, my heart was still breaking because I was leaving my home. A country of proud, strong people, lush land, and beautiful rivers and beaches. I returned in 2018 with a medical degree and 15 years of experience under my belt. I was back home, ready to give my best to the country that had molded me. Her warmth and her gentle strength embraced me, and I wondered how I was able to stay away for so long. This is where my heart is. I looked up to the hills and mountains in awe, and I enjoy her beaches most weekends with freedoms and without restrictions. Freedoms gained in 1978 when she was released from colonialism and allowed to stand on her own. Although she has faced many challenges, I have seen this nation country grow in possibilities. She has rebuilt herself time and time again and has come out stronger with every fight. We have always been a resilient, proud people. I remember as a kid, after a hurricane wondering, will anyone come to our aid? To seeing the influence we have gained over the years, where we had multiple countries coming to our aid after Maria. So on her 43rd birthday, I would like to say thank you to Dominica and to those that fought for her independence and those that guided us through. I wish we could celebrate like we normally do with our usual cultural activities. But as I ate my crab callaloo today and listened to some of my favorite cultural music, I feel an indescribable pride that resonates from within. Happy 43rd anniversary of independence, Dominica. May we continue to grow and change together. May our shores always remain welcoming and freedoms always remain as we grow to a more resilient nation state with its already resilient people.
For all intents and purposes, in the next 7 years, Dominica will celebrate 50 years of independence. As we observe the 43rd anniversary of our independence, it would be good for us to look in retrospect of what this 43 years has been for us, and to soberly and reflectively project our mindsets to that great big celebration of 50 years of independence. Independence is not only a state in life. Independence is a time of obtaining certain things like autonomy, achieving maturity, and being fulfilled as a person or an individual or a country or even collectively as a people. So as we reflect on the past 43 years of our independence from that great, heroic, momentous day of 3rd November 1978, it would be good for us to do, as I said, some introspection as to where have we been as a people. When we look back on the past 43 years, let us reflect on our achievements. What have they been? Economically, politically, culturally, socially, and even spiritually to some extent. What do we see? Can we as a people be happy or boastful about our past 43 years? For any country to develop, you would need to really tap into your resource base. And so we look at our main means of production, land and capital. Where are we today? And most importantly, where are we as a people? As a people, we have developed, we have grown, and we can be very proud of ourselves that Dominicans are making their mark the world over in various fields all across the globe. And we should be proud of that. We should also be proud that we have stuck collectively as a people at various times in the past, and we can do so again in the future. We remember the time when Dominica was perhaps the leading country of productivity, at least in the OECS. And so as we think of what we have become, we need to ask ourselves, have we grown as a country in our productivity sector, agriculture, our human resource, our other types of resources that there are? What are we as a people exporting to the outside world? What can we boast of as a people? We have grown very rich in terms of our cultural knowledge and identity with things like the World Queer Music Festival. And I would say that when one looks back on the past 43 years, our cultural heritage has been strengthened and widened. And we can say that Dominicans have really adopted their heritage and identity as a people. Politically, where have we become? What is the role of politics in the framework of someone's lives or a nation livelihood. How apathetic are we, or how engaged are we in the political sphere as we seek to drive the direction that our country is taking? What of political representation and political governance? These are the things that we need to reflect on over the past 43 years. What are the level of our manufacturing and export? How have we grown in terms of our achievement in other areas like sports, human resource development? And at 43, significantly is a time when we would have passed the attainment of adulthood and grown into maturity and would have been able to really be proud of ourselves, of who we are as a nation, as a country, and as a people, and most significantly, our place in the wider world. As we look back and we can say, let us look forward to the next 7 years when we would have attained 50. 50 is a significant number. It, first of all, can be referred to as a jubilee year when people would be reaping the harvest of their lives. It's a time of where one can achieve a certain level of regeneration, of where we take control of our lives, because at 50, we have reached a milestone of halfway between 100. And so we are now would be coming a time when we would settle down into who we are as a people. And so as we look forward to the next 50 years, we ask ourselves, what can we become? Where can we become more of? Can we become more kind and loving to people? Can we demand better governance? Can we expect more of our people? Can we have a society where people are more collective with each other and supportive of each other? And as, to use the words of former Prime Minister Edison James, more kind and gentle society? What of our administrative areas? What of our security, our national security, our social security, our religious freedoms and independence? Let us, as a nation, as we look forward to the next 50 years, ask ourselves and do some introspection and begin to make a statement to ourselves and to the wider world and to our society that the Dominica of today is this the Dominica we would like at the age or the attainment of 50? And what can we do collectively, consciously, purposefully, deliberately as a people, that over the next 7 years, we would be able to solidify our identity and our independence and to become a real autonomous nation where we can raise our flag high, where we can be proud to say that we are indeed a nation that has flourished, that has achieved, that is taking its rightful place in the wider world community. Let us move on with the determination to become proud, more prouder, more knowledgeable of who we are as a people, so that when we reach 50, we can truly say that the Jubilee is upon us. We will really be able to celebrate that we have indeed become a people on our own, for our own, by our own, in this wide world of sphere of things.
At 9:33 on Tuesday evening, this is a special edition of the Global View on Q. And we're here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, doing an independence review and receiving some really congratulatory messages as well. But looking and thinking through and even planning, if you like, of what are we going to be like when we get to 50? Our hair will begin to get gray. We'll begin to be bald. We will begin to change our diet. We'll begin to exercise because we do not want to get diabetes and hypertension. What will this nation be at 50? Now, with everything I've heard, here's my response to it. Dominica, God have blessed thee with a clime benign and bright, pastures green and flowers of beauty, filling all with pure delight, and a people strong and healthy, full of godly reverend fare. May we ever seek to praise thee for these gifts so rich and rare. All these gifts, so many people we have here tonight on the call and with these voice notes, all of them gifts of Dominica. There are a couple of them on the call that I have here tonight that I want to bring in right now. And I see the leader of the Dominica Freedom Party here. And there's a lady here who you do not hear very of her very much, but she's been around these politicians and grown with them and know their thoughts and everything else. So I'm going to allow Mr. Bernardito to speak to us for a brief while. And following him, Debbie Douglas is there, and I wanted to share some thoughts as well as we review our independence, as we look at where we are, and we plan to go forward. All I ask of you at 9:35 is to make sure the people are still listening to us. Don't tell them too much at one time. Thank you very, very much for doing that. Bernard, would you talk to us?
Thank you so much, and good night, evening to the entire panel, and thanks to the organization for putting this together. I think it's very necessary that we have these sort of conversations, these rap sessions among ourselves as people, as leaders, as a community, because that's really how we build the collective mind of who we are and what we are, what we want. So I think these discussions are very critical, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to be with this. When we look back on the 43 years that Dominica has existed, I think there is a clear, in my mind, dichotomy between the first 22 years, let's say the first 21, and the second 21. Clearly, we had a tipping point. We had an inflection point in the history of our country. A lot of the discussions that we heard, a lot of the sentiments expressed, and the sensibilities of who we are as people, a lot of that is nostalgic to some extent, right? It is before the Dominica we knew growing up as kids, and Dominica in the early 80s and so forth, when we had a certain sense of vibrancy, a certain sense of self-determination, a certain sense of peoplehood, and a certain sense of hard work and good governance for most of those 22 years, given the little troubles in the 70s that sorted themselves out. We also had sort of an economic model that at least was making progress. When you look at the numbers, we had decent growth throughout the 80s and into the 90s, of course, when the bananas collapsed. But I think the tale of Dominica in the 43 years is a tale of two cities, really. Because the idea set that we have approached Dominica with before is in my mind very different. Dominica is now not a very productive country, as we said and as we know, and without adding value to the global society, the global community, you are really a dependent nation in many senses. And so if you look at what Dominica produces, the mind of Dominicans are not utilized to create value in the global community. And that is what it takes to become a wealthy country. And so that seems to have gone astray. And I think, it's clear why. There has been a process of political development that every country needs to go through as it attains independence, as a young country, as a country that has attained independence. It has to learn and grow and evolve into a modern political entity. All political entities go through this. They go through this early phase of immaturity in their political processes, and they mature as they go through time to better democracy, liberal democracy, human rights, institutional safeguards, and so forth. And I think what happened to us is we simply got institutional capture. The institutions of Dominica's governance and economics and everything got captured in the early 2000s, and we have never really recovered from this. And so the state of Dominica, I believe, never really got a chance to pursue its political maturation process correctly. Because when certain entities become powerful, more powerful than the state, it is those entities that control the destiny and the maturation of the society, rather than the people developing a set of ideas of how to govern themselves and put institutions in place that ensure that rights and political rights and equal playing fields in democracy thrives. And so I celebrate, along with everybody, our inheritance and our people, the best people in the world. And as has been said before, I am happy nowhere else than in Dominica. You can't meet 5 Dominicans and for more than 10 minutes and not be laughing and have a good time. That's the kind of people that we are. We are still those people. But as far as our economic institutions, our political institutions, even our social institutions, they have been captured. And unless we as a people find a way to recapture those and get back on the path of a collective development, then we are going to, I think, not have a very happy 50th anniversary. And that is simply the situation in Dominica. Our economy is a rent-based economy, in the sense of it is based on nothing that we produce. It's simply based on sales of attributes already existing. That is the land and citizenship. We don't produce this. This is simply there. It's like oil revenues. You sell it, and that's a rent. That's not produced by the innovation, the hard work, the creativity of the people. And without that foundation for an economic engine of creativity, innovation, then you have much difficulties. You become a rentier society controlled by those who control the renter structure. And I think that's the sort of institutional structure that we have. If you look in 1978, China pivoted at the same time that we got independence from being a controlled society to being open and innovative. And from 1978, our GDP per capita was 3 times that of China. Today, China's GDP per capita is twice that of ours. They have outpaced us tremendously. And we had the same 1978 to now. And we have to ask ourselves as a people, what have we done? What caused this? Why were we not able to innovate and to create? The final thing I'll say is we missed a critical point because we simply did not have the right vision, the right conceptualization of ourselves when the year 2000 rolled around and the world went digital. And that was an opportune time for us to use our human capital, our understanding of the intelligence of our people to pivot to that world and to get into an economic engine that would capture that world. And we failed because we, as I said, on a different path, on a different mission that did not capitalize on collective intelligence of the people. And we are facing this issue again now. We have now moved past the digital world per se. We're now into the datafication of the world. And there's another wave coming, and we're going to miss it unless we get the set of people that understand how to build a modern economy, how to build a modern society, how to build the human capital we live in this country, the beautiful, intelligent people that we have, to create this sort of economy that we can be proud of. And there are opportunities out there, but we need the right vision, we need the right understanding, and we need to believe in ourselves and to think big. We need to think that we're capable of those things. And we need leaders and visionaries that can make us believe these things. And I think that's the legacy and that's the mission for the next 7 years if we are to pivot to a brighter future in the next 50. So
thank you. Thank you very much, Bernard, the leader of the Freedom Party. Debbie, are you still with us here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Debbie. Would you share your thoughts now, please?
Yes. First of all, I would like to say good evening to all Dominicans at home and abroad. A happy independence. I would also like to, thank Mr. G, better known as Sheridan Gregoire, for first inviting me to record Independence Day greeting, which I did, and you'll hear later in the program. And when I told him I was quite busy, that I wasn't going to be on the program, all I was going to do is just listen in, he actually sort of like outed me and say I'm here. So obviously I'm not in my Sunday best with my makeup, so that's why you can't see my face, but you could hear my voice. Now, I would also like to thank the former prime ministers, Mr. O.J. Seraphin and Mr. Edison James, for their contribution. And if I may say so, I don't think you should, honor people or talk about their achievements after they're gone, which is the case for the late Patrick John, who passed recently, and my dad, who passed in 2000, October 1st, 2000. So I'd like to say, Prime Minister Seraphin and Prime Minister Edison James, both of you men can point to things that you've done and achieved while you were in office. Sadly, the current occupant of this office will not be able to say that. So thank you very much for your contributions, and thank you very much for being here tonight. We've been talking a lot about the 70s era, and it's a period of, when there was innovation, a period of enlightenment. We spoke about the works of the Labour Party then, the Popular Independence Committee of my father, the late Prime Minister Rosie Douglas, as well as people like Bernard Wiltshire, and the late Pierre Charles, Prime Minister Pierre Charles, Gabriel Christian, who was like me, a high school student at the time, Justice Irvin Andre in Canada. All these people were very involved. And I remember those days clearly because I grew up in the bosom of Labour. I don't know if Prime Minister Seraphin remembered, but the first time I met him was in my cousin, the late Isaiah Thomas, in St. Joseph living room in 75, speaking on a platform for Dominica Labour Party election. And at that young age, I was vibrant. I grew up in the bosom of Labour. My mother, is from St. Joseph and is first cousin with Isaiah Thomas. And I remember those days. I went to Canada for high school. I came back, and my father had just been deported, and literally it wasn't really a choice. My Saturdays was getting up in the morning, praying with my grandmother and my other cousins in her room, having my breakfast, having a shower, and my father is hurrying. We got to go to Granby and we have to stop on the way. So hurry up, you're taking too much time. By 8, 9 o'clock, we are in his van, going on along the coast, stopping off in Corley or St. Joseph, where I have family, all the way to Granby, where we arrive at Pierre Charles' home. And from there, we have a meeting and so on. And I remember my grandmother telling him after the second week, saying, I am a girl. I'm too young to be around all these men. It's not good for me, that he needs to just get on with his politics and leave me at home on Saturday. And my father said, no, I'm here, I'm there, nothing's going to happen to her. I need her to get a grounding in our politics. And so this is how I grew up. PIC, Popular Independence Committee, at the time, they were fighting for independence. So we had meetings around the island. My uncle Mike, the late Michael Anthony Douglas, was a cabinet minister with O.J. Seraphin in Patrick John's government. And so, although my father was considered left, and people like Bernard Wiltshire were considered leftists, we worked then with the Labour Party, and the Labour Party were receptive to our ideas. They were in government, they did the negotiations in England, but at the time, Eugenia Charles was opposed to it. So we had to mobilize the population, and that's what PIC did. And Prime Minister Seraphin and the late Patrick John and the government, they took the baton and went to England and negotiate. And I remember that 3rd November 78, standing up in Windsor Park, seeing our flag being raised for the first time, listening to the national anthem and Patrick John giving his speech. And so there was a great period of euphoria. In those days, for young people, we were involved in politics. The Bishop had just gotten overthrown Gary in 79 in Grenada. So he came to Dominica, I remember, after Hurricane David. Everybody was there, the youth. These are the people we listened to. We read a lot. We didn't watch soaps or read Bulls and Mills and Bull. We were really like engaged. But also too, what we must understand though, in those days, the leadership. I remember the Labour Party youth was very vibrant. I was part of that. The National Youth Council, of which Gabriel was part of, Gabriel Christian, Attorney Gabriel Christian, and Justin Irvin Andre. I was in third form, but I would come up to Roseau. I remember once the teachers were on strike for about 3-4 weeks, and we felt we would lose our school year. That must have been 76. And we marched, not 76, 77. We organized, mobilized all the schools in Dominican. We met in Roseau, had a huge rally at Windsor Park. And I remember Justice Andre was chairing the rally. That's the first time I met him, you know? So I'm just saying, though, the youth, we were all engaged. And my father would fill my head with all these grandiose vision for Dominica. We'd be driving along the coast, and he would say, "Oh, Debbie, look, we have pumice." I said, "What do you mean?" "We could use that to make cement." And he had all these ideas. And I'm like, "Really? We're just a poor country." You know, "Are you hallucinating?" And he said, "No, we are a beautiful country, easily the most beautiful island in the world. We have natural resources. Look at our sulfur springs. We are blessed with 365 rivers. I mean, we could develop an ecotourism industry that none of the islands can compete with us, because we are the only island with these majestic mountains, blessed with 365 rivers, sulfur spring, and a vibrant culture. So we haven't utilized those resources. In my day growing up in Portsmouth, we had a store, and the banana industry was vibrant. I remember on Wednesday, they had what you call fortnight, and the entire Portsmouth, including the square outside of our house, were huge trucks, banana farmers from the north, Westley and Marigot, that banana belt, Calabishi. And these men would come in, and they would literally just fill their trucks, 10 bags of sugar. And I'm not talking about a pound of sugar, a bag, cement. And they sent their children to Portsmouth Secondary School, where I was a student. People had money. They were not begging. In fact, our people had a sense of pride. We were hardworking. And if I may say so, Prime Minister Edison James is from the north. He's from Marigot. So I'm sure he could probably, he knows that what I'm saying is true. And there was a vibrancy. The northern farmers, there was a certain pride when they arrived in Roseau. People are saying your country bookie may only l'argent poche, which is true. When they walked into Astafans, even if you consider them, well, you're Jawas on their country, they have their money. So people welcome them.
Debbie,
So anyway.
Let me ask you something, Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
That history that you're giving us, when you put it in perspective, in a few sentences, tell me, where would you want to see us?
Well, this is where I'm going now. No, I am saying, though, that we are a people that's resilient. And I'm not saying that just because I'm Dominican, but I can see how we recovered after Hurricane David. I can see how we recovered after Hurricane Maria. I was in Dominica in 2018 for my uncle's funeral, Mark Douglas. And I was going around talking to people in Portsmouth who, when I saw them on TV, their houses were totally broken. And I said to them, "But my God, you've survived. You're back on your feet. You've opened your shop." And you know what one lady said to me in Portsmouth? "What do you expect us to do? We have to live. We have to have faith." And I said, that is the Dominicans. We are a resilient people. Now, we have human resource. All over the world, Dominicans have gone and done well, okay? The Commonwealth Secretary is a Dominican, Baroness Scotland. The director of PAHO is a Dominican. We have Dr. Irvin Andre in Canada, Judge. We could go on and on. We are resilient people. And right at home in Dominica, we have people like, Dr. Dion Armour, Dr. Dion Robinson Armour, excuse me, I got the name wrong, who have come back, not to retire in her prime at 44. And there are a lot of us in the diaspora living in exile who we live here, but really our hearts are in Dominica. So we have our human resource. And my dad always say, until Dominica utilize that human resource, especially in the diaspora, we will not develop. And I'm not talking about coming down for carnival or Creole festival to jump up the sea. I'm talking about this. We have to use the human resource, the scientists among us, the human resources people among us, the doctors, the engineers, the people who have gone to create businesses. We can go on and on. Then now what we are blessed with the land. Okay, what are we doing saying that we are just selling passports when we have this beautiful island, not doing anything with it? At the very least, if we develop our ecotourism, literally tourism, the revenue alone it would bring, we would be able to create jobs for young people who are feeling despondent. We would be able to get some of us who are back in the diaspora, who are, getting older, to come back before retirement. We also have a vibrant culture. We didn't speak about that tonight. Remember in the 70s, 78, 79, when we had this explosion of cultural creativity from the People's Action Theatre with people like Severin, McKenzie, and the late Michael Bruni, my friend. And also we had Gramax Exile. These are the guys who were making headlines. The late singer of Gramax, Jeff Joseph, who's my first cousin, he passed away 11 years ago. Bless his soul. I mean, Gramax was formed in my living room in St. Joseph. And my father said that the Eugenia Tribes did not
Debbie,
use that.
Debbie, I get that point, and
no, so I am saying though, and I know we can't go on, and I am saying we need to.
But Debbie, we are already running on 10 o'clock. I want to bring Dr. Simone Mathieu in for a few moments so she can.
I just conclude and say, so we need to, while we are all here reminiscing, what are we going to do collectively? Because there is hope. There is hope. And my father would not want us to sit down there crying. My father would say, continue the struggle. Unfortunately, he left us early, and the people who took over opportunities, they don't share his vision. But we are not going to let them hijack our beautiful Dominica and just step aside. We need to step up and take our country back.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you. Dr. Simone, let's have a few comments from you, and let us get some greetings from the Facebook people. We're going to take just about 4 more clips, and then we're going to begin to wrap this up tonight, okay?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Pastor Rodney. And I just want to piggyback on what Debbie was just saying with regards to hope, with regards to human resources, because I think it's so important that we are exploring our history. We're looking at where we came from. We're looking at the strength of our people over the years. But I think we also have to spend some time looking towards the future, looking at the human resources that she was just talking about with regards to having experts in every field that we can imagine. I just heard Dr. Swinburne Augustine speaking. He's one of our top microbiologists. And we have so many experts, but where do we go from here? How do we pull that energy together, those human resources together? How do we embrace technology? What can each one of us do in order to create the Dominica that we hope to live in the coming years? And I know that I'm taking this from a different angle, because I know we want to spend some time reminiscing about the good old days when, we had the Kudma spirit and we had collaboration and we had youth involvement. But I still think there is hope for the future. I think that if we put our minds together and we focus, we are able to create great economic opportunities for Dominicans. And I think at the end of the day, that is one of the main points. And I know this works because, as a matter of fact, I am so happy to see Lorraine Delsol on the program this evening, because the outfit I am wearing was made by Lorraine Delsol. My entire Creole outfits that I've been wearing for the entire Creole season were made by Lorraine Delsol in Canada, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So here we are, the synergy that I'm talking about, the opportunities that I'm talking about to bring our experts together so that we are creating opportunities. And I am sure everyone joining us from Facebook is from far and wide, spanning the entire globe, looking at us on Facebook, listening to us on the radio. We have Dr. Thompson founding all the way out in South Sudan. So the technology is there. So with that, I have to run, but I want to make sure that we're always acknowledging the presence and the contribution of our Facebook Live audience. So I just want to shout out a couple of people before we forget to do so by the end of the program. So we have Peter Xavier, Mali Ostri, Celia George, we have Emma Frederick, let's see who else we have. We have so many people on here. Christian Paul, we have Gerald Williams. Let's just take a couple. Janice Shaplis. So we always want to acknowledge our Facebook Live audience because they have wonderful discussions on Facebook. But these are some of the experts that we also want to tap into, right? So I just, while I'm getting ready to end, I just want to end on this note that we have to be hopeful. We have to take the strength of the ancestors and the strength of our history that our country is built on, and we have to continue to explore that. But I also do not want us to lose focus on the fact that we have the resources that we need to circumnavigate the obstacles that are in our way, and let the political experts fight that battle on our behalf. But what can the average Dominican like me, what can the average Dominican overseas and in Dominica do to create economic opportunities, to create a social safety network for our youth and for the people of Dominica? So with that, I wish everyone a very happy independence. Mr. G, thank you again for inviting me onto the program. And I just want to wish everyone on the panel, on Facebook Live, and on the radio a very happy independence. So good night, everyone.
Thank you, Simone. Mr. G, it's 10 o'clock, and we have been at this for 3 hours, and I'm hoping that we probably can organize some time again where we can really discuss that and bring in these wonderful people with so many thoughts on the idea of growing Dominica with a vision for 50 years. Because at 50 years, we should have paid our mortgage. At 50 years, we should be looking to retirement. At 50 years, we really should be enjoying the fruits of our labor, right? So I'm going to take just a few comments here that we have, and then I'm going to ask you, Mr. G, to begin to wind us down this evening. So let's start with Alvin Thomas. We'll take a comment from Dr. Dale Dangleben, and finally we'll take a comment from Captain Frankie Tong. Let's listen to this.
To my many Dominican friends and family at home and in the diaspora, I have been asked to extend greetings to you on the occasion of our 43rd anniversary of independence as a nation. I will admit that I'm doing so with some mixed emotions. Given the recent developments as it relates to the circulation of a video on social media, which I'm sure many of you may have seen, of what can best be described as the peddling of our passport, our sovereignty, on the streets of Iraq, right on the eve of our independence. This outrageous, scandalous, and despicable video should give us all pause and to ask the question, are we better than that? And can we as a young independent nation do better than that? Clearly, the road ahead poses some serious challenges for us as a nation, and it will require all hands on deck to save what I would say our sovereignty and democracy. These two areas of nation building will be critical as we continue to mature as a young independent nation. In the words of one of our cultural songs by the Souffle Mutai Chorale, Our Belle Dominican, There's a line in the song which says, "Pa kite yo po Dominico no." This line in the song is so relevant today in light of these developments that we are seeing as it relates to our citizenship as a people. I am, however, very hopeful that we can do better and will do better as we forge ahead within a relatively short time towards our 50th year of independence. I say to all Dominicans at home and abroad, a happy 43rd independence, and to every Dominican across the globe, as we celebrate, let's remain vigilant, focused, and proud as a people. Peace and blessing upon our nation.
What I would like for Dominica is the removal of this dictatorship of Roosevelt Scarrett, the grip that he's had on Dominica, and again, the lack of progress for 20 years of a once great island. So when you ask, what do I want for Dominica, for the independence, is new governance and holding these criminals accountable for what they have done to Dominica, from a legal standpoint, from an ethical standpoint, and from a moral standpoint. I also would like to see Dominicans stand up for their rights and take back their country. So that's a loaded question. What do I want for Dominica? Dominica has regressed in every sector, while a handful of people have ripped and raped the island. So what do I want for Dominica? Justice. Justice against the likes of this dictatorship of Roosevelt Scarrett.
To all my fellow Dominicans, greetings. I wish us all a very blessed 43rd independent anniversary. 43 years ago, the vision of being an independent, self-sustaining nation was achieved. There are lots of people who deserve commendation for keeping this vision and fight alive. We are on the cusp of a milestone on this journey, and there is so much we should be thankful for. Dominica has maintained her natural beauty, elegance, and spirit of resilience. We have weathered all types of storms, yet we stand strong and tall. Those before us left a legacy that we must strive to maintain, one of dedication, hope, confidence, and commitment. I am always so pleased to read and hear of the achievement being made by Dominicans, both home and abroad. They continue to keep that legacy of hard work and fortitude and resilience burning bright. Today I salute us all and continue to encourage the setting of good examples for those behind to follow. I envision that Dominica in the next 7 years will still be as beautiful as it is today, with greater emphasis on the agricultural sector. And that though we would be at a different place technologically, we would still maintain that uniqueness about us that makes us such a different nation. Friendly, welcoming people, sustainable agricultural practices, and so much more. Also, the vision of a climate-resilient country is one that should be encouraged. I am a very proud Dominican, proud of my Kalinago ancestry and my African ancestry. I'm happy to be able to continue to contribute to our nation building by providing a market for goods and produce regionally and internationally through canned produce and agricultural produce business based in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Again, I say, blessed 43rd independent anniversary. Be safe, be strong, always Dominica.
The last verse of our national anthem says, "Come ye forward, sons and daughters of this gem beyond the compare. Strive for honor, sons and daughters. Do the right. Be firm, be fair. Toil with hearts and hands and voices. We must prosper." Song the call, in which everyone rejoices. All for each and each for all. a vision penned in our national anthem that we should carry, as it were, in an operation manual that should elevate us, making sure that every single Dominican in every nook and cranny receives the benefit in an equitable manner with justice for all, building capacity in every area, making sure that we will grow. And I say we have everything within our power to grow. And we need to open up our wings, as it were, and fly as we strive for honor. Mr. G, I commend you for putting this program together. It's a heavy program tonight. We have so many other thoughts from so many other people that we would like to share, but we may not be able to do that tonight. Your thoughts now.
Yeah, well, clearly we're not going to be able to do all of it. We have so many more inserts from so many more people, and very, very, very solid Dominicans as well, real patriots. Certainly, we have to thank Severin McKenzie for coming on board as well with the NJAM to try to do this collaboration with us, and I really appreciate that. But I really could not live without giving a couple of minutes, Pastor Rodney, to allow myself to feel even a little bit more elevated to hear a final comment from Annette and from OJ and Seb, you know, before we leave, you know. So I hope that Annette can give us a sort of a closing remarks, as it were, because she hasn't had much opportunity. But I think, Pastor, we'll have to continue this another time. Yeah, Annette?
Oh, let's hear from you, Annette. Okay, Annette,
yes.
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 Right. Yes.
Right. Thank you once again for the opportunity to be here tonight. It was a pleasure listening to all the different opinions and, you know, how people really feel about our independence. As an Indigenous person, I must say, for me, upon my reflection, it's very difficult because as an Indigenous people, I don't think we have really enjoyed the level of independence that we wanted to. I say that because even currently, our rights as Indigenous people are not respected. And we have, like I said before, so many things that we're in need of. And looking forward for the next 50 years, there are so many developments that we need as an Indigenous people to be able to thrive and to prosper. You know, we think about our sporting facilities that needs improvement, our education system, which needs improvement. We need improvements in our culture. I mean, for the past years, we have not really had our Kalinago Week celebrated. We don't have an Indigenous Day after 43 years, you know, and even 20 years of the current government. We don't have that Indigenous Day to celebrate our culture and to appreciate who we are, our language. Even right now, we have still not put a lot of emphasis in trying to help the Indigenous people to regain that language and to, you know, better appreciate the culture. When I reflect on the little efforts that is being placed on helping us to thrive economically, it's really painful because there's just so much money being used in other areas in the country, and the first people who have been here do not get to enjoy the pleasures of, you know, all that we make as a country in terms of the passport sales and so on. And as an Indigenous leader, I am looking forward to continuing to fight the good fight of faith for Indigenous people and to speak the truth at all times on their behalf and to push the agenda of our rights as Indigenous people to be passed through the parliament, and that we can, as Indigenous people, you know, get to enjoy the privileges that we deserve in this country. It's really an honor to see that there are hundreds of Dominicans across Dominica, thousands really, and across the world who share that same mindset that we currently as a country do not really enjoy independence in the truth of the word. We don't. We are not really an independent nation. A lot of the people live in fear, afraid to lose their jobs, afraid to even speak freely because of the current administration, and that is a fact. And looking forward in the next 50 years, we have to look forward to better governance, putting the right people in the right places to lead us. because when we don't do that, we have a lot of decay in our various systems. And I'm hoping to be part of that team to be able to bring back our country to where it's supposed to be and to work with every Dominican who is willing to do so. So thank you for the opportunity, and we do wish that we will continue that fight to get our country to the independence that we really need.
Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you very much, my dear. Thank you very, very much. Sebs, are you there? And then we'll take a final comment from former Prime Minister Seraphin.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes.
Yes,
Let's have your final comment.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me see if I could raise 4 quick points, because I think Dominica is sitting on a gold mine of resources that we have failed to explore over the last few years. Oh, we still have millions of gallons of water flowing into the sea every minute, and we have not been able to tap this resource so that we to our own economic benefit. As we head towards our 50th anniversary, I pray that this is one of the resources that we'll be able to explore to the advantage and benefit of our people. 2, after Ross University was here for 40 years, and they left a complete infrastructure intact at Portsmouth. Many of the persons who operated, managed Ross University were in fact Dominicans with the assistance of the foreigners, the faculty people who actually came in. How on earth can Dominica not be able to muster the resources to re-establish some type of facility and the infrastructure that is already there with all the resources, the trained human resources that we have, including the Dean of Ross University is in Barbados. He's a Dominican. So I believe that and the last time we heard was an agreement signed in Pakistan. And a few hours later, we understood that this university was decredited. To use the right term, I do not know if I use the right term that they had.
What it says was derecognized or something like that.
Yeah.
But Sebs, I know you're trying to conclude, but I see Pastor Rodney is kind of he's a young chap with us tonight, but he normally goes to bed a bit early, so we have to try to help him.
Yeah, and the other thing is how with all the cannabis that we have produced in Dominica and the type of cannabis, how can we move away from just allowing young guys to be smoking free joints and people planting free trees in their yard? How do we take advantage of that? And I think one of the most important things that is lacking since independence and what we had before independence was conversation. When is the last time the population was able to sit with their leaders in a forum like this one, for example, where we can discuss ideas, agree to disagree, and move on?
True.
Let me take the opportunity to wish all Dominicans a happy independence. We have struggled so far, and we will continue. Let's hope for the best, and we send all my love to all Dominicans, and let's enjoy it. We still have Dominica to build, because some of us who decided to stay at home, it's too late for us to go anywhere at this time. So we have to continue to fight the fight.
Well, Pastor Rodney, we have to thank Sebs for making his remarks brief, but even as they were brief, he still stole a couple of minutes from former Prime Minister Oliver Seraphin's time. So you see, he has a little less time now Because
I get the hint, Sheridan. Yes, let me just say this, that what I have picked up from today's or tonight's session is that we have a global leadership group here. And more importantly than anything else that I've heard is the fact that if they're good enough to be brought down from the various parts of the world to vote, they're good enough to become part of a process to lead. And it is my conclusion that what we have to deal with really is how do we incorporate all the resources, as someone said earlier, of all the persons from Dominica who are in privileged positions, who are in very, very functional positions, who have adopted the information that is necessary to perform their duties that they could pass on to their homeland. And if so, by what means can we do this? I believe this forum is the beginning of something that will grow out of this need for resource-based intellectual transfer of information and technology. And we have to conclude by saying that there are some situations within our country that needs to be addressed urgently. That would include the Boundaries Commission. We have 21 constituencies for so few people. The question of the ombudsman, the IPO, the issue of the boundaries, which would incur a very important situation is, are we not overmanaged? Why are we doing with so many ministers? What about our constitution, for which Telford judges and NGO Liverpool were looking to make changes as is necessary? We have a lot of work to do. We have a sprint ahead of us for our 50th birthday. And so my suggestion is that, let me call you Mr. G like everybody else, that you have work to do. And that is to continue that process of information that is necessary to create and direct the way in which we behave as a nation that looks for answers and not just questioning political situations, but looking for ways and means in which we could implement programs and projects and to bring Dominica to the place we wanted to go in just 7 years. I thank you for your invitation.
Well, Pastor Rodney, you remember Shillingford Crescent by the Public Works Garage? That is where I knew OJ. We grew up together there. He never called me Mr. G then. I used to call me a name. I don't want to tell anybody else that name. You can't say that publicly. But I have to tell you that, I think we really had a good time tonight. Unfortunately, Pastor Rodney, we were not able to put out all of the, I mean, we have so many more from so many people, who are really passionate about the patriotism and the good they want for Dominica. I think we'll have to do this again another time and to complete the conversation. So, Pastor Rodney, let me just say, I'm very thankful for everybody who was here tonight, all the people who sent the voice notes, even those that we were not able to bring out tonight, all the people who are still with us on Facebook, all the people who are out there in Radio Land who I
would love to call.
I'm not sure who to blame for not taking their calls. That to be determined. But nonetheless, I want to thank all of the people, and I want to thank Bernard and Seb came up, say, hey, let's do this thing together with NJAM. Great idea. I want to thank Annette for always being there and fearless and strong and standing up for people. And then, of course, former Prime Minister O.J. Seraphin for all that he's done to help to take us into independence. That's why we're here talking about this tonight. And of course, Thompson, who's out there in South Sudan, way out there 7 or 8 hours ahead of us, trying his best to go to sleep, but we're keeping him up. So, Thompson, say good night to you. And Debbie, thanks a lot for being there. I hope next time we'll bring you back again so we can continue the conversation. And let's see what's down the road for us as we head into our 50th. Pastor Rodney.
Thanks for having me. Good night. Happy independence, everyone. And in my previous life, I used to be a politician.
Yes.
So I'm leaving it to the younger generation.
You sound more like a politician now than anything else to me. So you sound so much like your father. But anyway, Pastor Rodney, this is my good night to everybody and my thanks to everybody. So over to you, Pastor Rodney, to wind it up.
Well, let me thank every one of you for being here. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this conversation tonight, Mr. G. I was very happy to be here. And it's a conversation that we need to continue. In fact, we have just started that, if you ask me. We need to get into the aspect where we bring Dominicans together now, not just to talk, but we formulate action, that we can begin to do something to lift the nation. Like I said, if we just talk about it, guess what? In 7 years' time, we'll still be talking about it. We need to talk about it, and that's healthy, but we need to formulate action that we can begin to lift our nation together. Let me apologize again to all of you who would have wanted to share your contributions tonight by telephone. We have so many people already on there that we really apologize. And you are just as important as they are, trust me. It is just that we had gotten all these voice notes before that, and we have a number of them that we haven't played. So some of you who were expecting your voice clips to be played, we apologize as well that your voice clips tonight is not played, but you will understand why. We started here at 7 o'clock. It's 25 minutes after 10 o'clock tonight. And if we have to do all of that, we'll be here by 3 o'clock. In fact, we'll probably be commemorating when the Union Jack went up. Went down, in fact, and the Dominican flag went up 43 years ago, right? So let me thank all of you for being here. Thank you, all of you on the panel, and thanks to all of you listening, watching my Facebook as well. A very good night to you from us here on the Global View on Q. God bless you.
Right, and thanks, Bernard. Nice to have you with us next time. I hope you can come a little earlier so you can get a little bit more in, you know. So thanks a lot, Annette. And Sebs?
It was my pleasure, and definitely next time.
Good night.
Okay, and Lorraine, Thompson, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Annette.
Good night.
All right. Thanks.